Well, there. Good evening, everybody. Got a quick little show for you tonight. Waiting for YouTube to boot in. Come on, YouTube. Yeah, it says we're online, and I'm waiting for YouTube to catch up. Jeez, huh? It's taking its sweet old time, that's for sure. Live in 27 minutes. Why would it say that? Maybe it is already live, and I just need to reboot everything. Yep, that's it. Live in 27 minutes. Why would it say that? Maybe it is on. There we go. My goodness. StreamYard to YouTube with the delays and the I don't even know. Anyhow, how the hell is everybody? Kane is always late. I don't know what happened to Kane, but he ended up doing like a 6-minute stream last night, and he kept people waiting for hours before he even gave him 6 minutes of his time. Kind of shit is that, Kane? Anyway, yeah. What the heck? Donna from, let me see what it says. Should say it in my description down here. Crime and Justice. Now this is what I've observed. I'm going to put her link in the chat as well, but it's in my description, which is what I think people were telling me to do when you're going to refer or use somebody else's stream information for educational or comment purpose. Yeah, you're not going to get Kane to pay attention. He's Kane. Kane rocks, man. Kane rocks and rolls it. So I wanted to put up. Let me see here. Hang on with me. Let me open up another window. So this is a short. What do you call it? A short clip that I'm going to play. What is it with these? This is crazy, these fucking ads. Unbelievable. Oh, thanks. Hang on. Quiet for a second. There we are. Okay. So Donna brings up another expert. She brings up a profiler. And it's interesting how this interview turns out with the profiler. Don't worry, Colleen. Don't you worry about me being... I'm not too rough on many people too much anymore. Let me think. And let me also remind you and point out, folks, I'm not up here to build a brand or to earn an income. I do this on my own free time. I have enough money so that I do not need to earn money from tragedies like the horrific murders of these 4 individuals. Therefore, I'm a lot more free in my opinions, a lot more free in the things I'll say. There is no concern for ad revenues or pissing people off or whatever that... Well, I don't mind pissing people off. But pissing people off doesn't cost me a penny. And for that reason, I'm very free in what I'm going to say and the things I'll produce and put up on the air here. There's a I don't even know what to say, but there's a power to being completely free and not controlled by the advertisers or others on the outside looking in. Although, of course, we are part of a communist network called YouTube that insists you say things or don't say things, or they'll strike you or ban you or do just some bullshit un-American stuff. But in spite of that, let's get back to where we are. So I'm going to bring up here onto the platform. Let's see here. Share screen. There we are. Share. We'll let that boot up and get into it. Let's see if it gets into the YouTubers. Make sure it's on your screen before I start it. There it is. Let me adjust the size of the viewing pleasure and see how that kicks in. So there we are. Crime and Justice with Donna Rotuno. I think that's how you say her name. Definitely, I listen to her channel. Think she's a pretty cool person. And let's get into this so that then we can have a brief conversation about it. I'm going to mute myself for the next several minutes here.
shift gears a little bit to Idaho. So, experts that were hired for the defense are now publicly raising a bunch of issues and now making this known that they actually believe that Brian Koberger was not given all the facts by his lawyer in order to plea. So tell me about what you think about this strategy from defense experts, because this is very rare to have experts that work on a case come out and speak out against the lawyers, speak out about pieces of evidence that we were not made aware of. So tell me what you're thinking about it, because I know there's a lot of people out there that have differing views in terms of what's appropriate and what isn't. And I have spoken to a couple of the people, one that wrote the book Broken Plea by Christopher Whitcomb. I've spoken to Dr. Brent Turvey, who was hired by the defense in this case, who's now coming out and really coming after the defense. And I'm wondering what you think about it, because I have mixed feelings.
Well, I'll start with Brent Turvey because I've known about him since he graduated from college, I believe. He held himself as an expert. He wrote a textbook, and he basically was telling the FBI that we didn't know anything about profiling or criminal investigative analysis or crime scene analysis. As far as I'm concerned, anything that he says is suspect. He is a self-promoting fool as far as I'm concerned. And you know him. I'm sorry if he's your friend, but I know him from way back.
No, he told me that I didn't know that my strategy in trying a case was I don't remember what term he used, but it was basically that it was a novice way to look at it. And I've been trying cases for 26 years. So
because he's the expert. He actually yes. He never investigated a case. He got himself hired by family members of people who were missing or killed, and if you look into his whole history there, that would be an interesting thing for you to do. But I know that in the past that he has been thrown out because he wasn't an expert. He was not allowed to testify as an expert in the past. Now he's got a PhD and he's got an institute and all this stuff, and maybe he's corrected his past foibles, but I will never give anything he says any credence, especially when he's apparently breaching confidentiality in a case with by outing legal defense strategies that he was not apparently given permission to do. So
well, and
that's
making
all I'll
a
say
claim.
about him. And I don't.
No. And he's making a claim that the Koberger family reached out to him after he was on these, different podcasts, not mine, but a different one. And they talked to him about the fact that, their son was not made aware of some of these things. And, of course, if that's true, and really the only thing that we agreed on was the fact that you should have all the facts before you make a decision about whether or not you're going to take a plea. But at the end of the day, Brian Koberger stood before a judge, and Brian Koberger said that he was making this a plea of his own free will. He answered every question the judge asked. He filled out a form ahead of time that also answered all those questions, and never one time. And one of those questions was, are you satisfied with your defense and your defense team? And the answer was yes. And of course, Dr. Turvey's response to that was, well, he was just being a good client, because that's what good clients do. And I thought to myself, well, then I haven't had many of them, because I get pushed back at every turn. And so I found all of that interesting. And so I'm just wondering, if you think that this strategy is going to work in any way, shape, or form for Brian Koberger out in Idaho.
Well, I don't think Koberger has anything to do with what Turvey said. And he has lawyers. Koberger does. And those lawyers are charged with doing the best thing for him. And Turvey doesn't. I mean, he gets hired, and then he not immediately, but at some point has a disagreement with the lawyer. So he decides he's going to take it to the public. It just sounds like a grandstanding move to get publicity to me, which is what he does very well. So I frankly, I don't even want to spend another breath of mine on that guy, because I don't respect him at all. Now, Cy Ray, he's talking about cell phone data and mapping evidence. And look, there is no question that there's a lot of technology involved in getting that data, interpreting that data, making sure that it is turned over to the defense and so forth. There may be issues with that.
I just want to point out that this pointed head dude with no hair is wearing makeup. Back to the show.
Defense attorneys, as you well know, will make issues with every piece of evidence, no matter how solid it is. That's their job, to call into question that. And so for somebody, an expert, after the fact to say that there were issues, that's the general way things are at trials. They have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And that may be a conglomeration of a lot of different things that raises to the level of beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah, death by a thousand cuts, I like to call it.
For whatever reason, yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, he decided that he was going to plead guilty. His attorneys could not have made that decision unilaterally. They must have included him in that because he actually did it of his own free will. Otherwise, it would not have been accepted. So I am not at all moved by the arguments that there wasn't perfect evidence against him and that it wasn't a 100% tight case. When you're doing an investigation, you are left with the evidence that many times the defendant leaves for you. In this case, there is an extremely damning piece of evidence. There is no evidence that other people were involved or that Kohberger wasn't involved. That's all we need to know. He pled guilty to it as well. He wasn't tortured to do that. He wasn't coerced in any way that we know. He certainly said he wasn't coerced. He's an intelligent person.
Exactly. That's what I said. He was a smart guy. He knew what he was doing. And he also, remember, there were mountains of motions filed in this case that the defense argued about different pieces of evidence. And so this was not a situation where you had a defense team that was laying down.
Well, there you have it. What do you all think? Well, there you have it. Oh, wait, I got to turn down my YouTube. Sorry. I hit live. There we go. Okay. Yeah. He came across new information that should have already known about you. Let me see. He's a former FBI employee. That's fine. He does have makeup on, though. You could tell by the difference in the color of his face and head and his neck. He's the makeup king. But no, I don't want Donna to represent Brian. Donna thinks Brian's guilty. I suspect, based on that particular little interview and the fact that she used this guy to attack Cy Ray, let's be clear. This guy is supposed to be a profiler, and he's not offering up anything about the profile of the murderer. No, not even profiling Brian Kohberger. Oh, I'm sorry, what she was. And it's kind of as if Donna is swatting back at Dr. Turvey. But I think she took personal. And I remember the part in their interview where she tried to suggest that not identifying the owner of a DNA could be a strategy. And that's where I think Dr. Turvey inferred that she didn't know what she was talking about. And I agree with Turvey in this. And I also want to say this because I don't think those people in the profession see themselves from outside of the profession. And I think that self-reflection lacks in attorneys. They just don't have self-reflection capacity. In their mind, especially somebody like me or you, but mainly I think someone like me that's outspoken and can actually cut apart the stuff that they're doing, definitely not welcome around them. Not at all. It makes them question what they're doing. It makes them question what they were taught. It makes them question what they have been practicing for, a year or 100 years, however long they've been in that profession. In this instance, when Turvey pointed that out, that all that stuff needed to be tracked down and identified, because he is an expert, is the one that's pointing it out. And when he gets up on the stand, and a smart prosecutor says, well, Dr. Turvey, you've explained and showed to a court that there was a hair and there was this and there was blood samples and there was that. And why didn't your defense, if it's so important, why didn't your defense team have the DNA analysis done on that evidence? So he's looking at it from a perspective that's both inside and outside the legal community. I think what Brett Turvey pointed out to her in her show should have been a learning moment for her, not a moment to catch like offense. And I think a lot of things, especially a lot of things I say, I think lawyers need to loosen up a little bit and realize that the system is systemically corrupt. You can't have 97% plea bargains. Now, I want to be very clear about this. It's highly probable 70 or 80% of the people or more actually committed the crime. But that's not your job as a defense attorney. It's to settle this case and move on, whether they committed it or not. Unless you can establish beyond your own reasonable doubt, and you can establish beyond the reasonable doubt of the client, that the information that's not only being presented on behalf of the state is accurate, but that it was collected in a manner that's consistent with the limits placed upon the state by the fucking Constitution of the United States. Period. That's your job. That's really the job of an attorney. It's got nothing to do with whether you committed the crime or not. I'm telling you, I committed crimes. I was charged and I pled guilty to a crime that I never committed because the crime I did commit would have been 1,000 times worse. So I took the plea. Okay. There was I knew that what they did nothing that would have violated my fucking constitutional freedoms, their limits, and I got caught. And so, okay, I took it. But other than that, in the other instances where I was involved with the law, I absolutely argued against them. And in more cases than not one. I spent very little time in jail. Look, I didn't even spend any time in jail for robbing a bank. So I'm not bragging or trying to be boisterous. What I'm trying to tell you is that unfortunately people in the services of justice, in both the defense and in the prosecution, and on the bench, and in the police departments, and in the FBI, do a lot of fucked up things they shouldn't be doing. But they don't know they're fucked up because they were taught to do them that way. And therefore, their analysis of these situations are based on that systemic corruption. It's a training, it's an educational problem. And they go about doing things they should never be doing. And it starts out with the very first time you speed driving a patrol car. You of all people should be not upholding the law, representing the law. You of all people. Starting right with the traffic cop down on the beat. Now I agree, we can't live in a perfect world, but shouldn't we live in a world where people try to do the best all the time and not settle because that's what everybody else does? I mean, that's when you get stagnant. That's when you start to go backwards. And that's what's happened in our justice system. Not to dive too deep into politics, but when you look at all the cases they brought against President Trump back before he was president again, none of those cases had any basis in reality or any real truth to the accusations. None. Zero. And they brought him anyway, and that should never have been allowed. Look at these judges that are stepping in to stop him on getting rid of illegal immigrants. Look at them. Temporary protected status. Removes them for the Haitians. and a district court judge slaps a nationwide injunction on him. That's not fucking right. That's not how the system's supposed to work. That's a larger example. Let's go back to the Koberger case. A crime scene. I mean, we were just the other day looking at a crime scene that was altered. Altered. Now, people could say not in any significant way to affect the investigation. Well, I don't know how you can say that. I think maybe the movement of a fucking potato chip bag, the movement of a snowflake pillow, the movement of a Solo cup, okay? They may not seem relevant to anybody, but that's the problem. That's your corruption right there. That's the corruption. How could these minor things, and I'm going to go ahead and agree with Chris Whitcomb. A hurricane can start from the flap of one butterfly's wing as events start to stack up on top of each other. How can a Solo cup, a bag of potato chips, a pillow with a snowflake, and a potty pad for a dog have anything to do with the quadruple homicides? Does anybody know? Because I can promise you, sadly, most of your attorneys, if not most of your investigative agencies within the police department, and especially the ground forces of the police department, the men in blue, okay, can't appreciate what that means. I think the audience appreciates what moving that shit means, right? Do I even have to say it? Or should I say it for the lawyers that may sneak in here? It says that the investigation, okay, is not prepared to be an investigation. You can't move anything in those fucking areas. If you're willing to move things that you think are inconsequential, how are you going to be able to identify anything if anything you move is considered inconsequential? Not a single thing in that home is inconsequential. None. Nothing. Every speck of dust, according to these jerk-offs in law enforcement, every speck of fucking dust, 70+% of which comes from the human body itself, is clearly crucial to the solving of a crime. And yet you could fucking move around pillows and cups, doggy fucking piss pads, potato chips, furniture. You move all that shit around, that's fine. But then you're going to tell me that you're equipped to pick up microscopic DNA off a knife sheet, the knife sheet that you delivered to a lab that had no chain of custody attached to it and had to be returned to you? And then you inappropriately filled the chain of custody out? A knife sheet that didn't appear on anybody's fucking list until a few days after? And it appeared on the floor only to be listed as being on the bed? Are you really fucking kidding me that this guy doesn't stand a chance in winning this case? If none of that matters, then why do we have an investigation? This is exactly what they're working towards, folks. This is what all these big fucking data centers are. That's what all these flock cameras going up are for. They want to convict you with no real proof, only some fucking surveillance and some electronic data. That's the next fucking step that they're taking. And guess what? It might even be better than the idiots that investigated the Idaho 4. I know I know it's about that, Robert. We don't know that he was never at 1122. That's the interesting thing. We can't know. No more than they can know that he was there. We can universally say this for sure. There is no evidence between the hours of 2:54 a.m. and 4:48 a.m. There's no way to locate Brian Koberger with any certainty, even on planet fucking Earth. The only one that can locate Koberger is himself. And so, you know, I definitely enjoy listening to Donna Rotuno, and I don't suggest anybody not tune into her. Listen to some of the stuff she brings forward. It's very good. But I think, unfortunately, our legal professionals are off track on so much that they're not able to see it because it's the way things are done. That's right, the way they handled, the way they removed evidence from the home, the way they tore the home down. But initially, the way they investigated that crime scene. If you are not smart enough to not move a goddamn thing, to not wander through the house with multiple officers. If you don't have the common sense to not do those things, then no evidence produced from that crime scene should be allowed into a fucking courtroom. You can't trust any of it. At the very least, the ignorance of their behavior, okay, is disqualifying for any evidence they collect. You know, I don't know how to put this into a simple fucking term, but you can't send a fucking dog with fleas into a fucking home to find fleas and expect to find fleas that didn't come from the dog. It's impossible. It's ridiculous. You don't go into a home with the concept of finding microscopic fucking skin cells. Okay? While everybody walking around is unprotected and shedding fucking skin cells like that fucking Charlie Brown character. And a lot of the ones you're shedding aren't yours. You picked them up at the gas station. You picked them up from sitting in the cop car. Every fucking convict that's been in back of your car, you could have their skin cells in your fucking car. Every fucking person you arrest, every ticket you give, every time you touch a gas pump handle, every time you go into a convenience store, any fucking time you go anywhere. And that's what the public should be getting educated with. The public should be shown what's real and what's not real. But no. They're going to search databases of people that are told when they join the database that their DNA would not be available to law enforcement without a specific warrant. That they're protected, and yet the cops go in there anyway. And then you want to act like it's just a tip. No, it's a violation of the constitutional limits placed upon you by we the people. You have no business going in those... And for Hitler not to take that stand makes him mean that he should not be a judge. For any lawyer that listens to this case or even my stream, if you don't agree with it, you shouldn't even be in the fucking the law business. Really, you at best should be sweeping or mopping the fucking floors in the courthouse. If you should even be allowed on the property at all. What's wrong with you? To not understand. You just don't go and grab 3,800 fucking cell phone numbers from American citizens and sort through them. You have no business doing that. You know, I was listening to Lee, and I do like listening to Lee and his group there. And, you know, he said, how much longer are we going to be able to stick with Koberger? And I don't know. I don't know. I think that the more it gets dropped out and the more effectively people start to communicate more of what is wrong with this case. Why are we still paying attention to this case? And we're paying attention to this case, I think, because the simple answer is these people fucked it up from the floor up. And those same people are trying to convince us not to look at any of that. Look at Steve. Talk about the hair. These people saying, I read the document about the hair. It was one hair. Well, that document is a lie. They're too stupid to look at the picture that was presented to the public accidentally by the very people that wrote that fucking document. Okay? Lawyers and cops. I told you during my divorce, I had a law guardian that called me a no good fucking dago that has fucking a family with a history of fucking organized crime. And that was why he didn't want me to be around my kid. None of that applied to me at all. None of it. But that racist motherfucker left that message on her answering machine, and after she played it, she hit delete. Because I wanted to go after the guy, legally. And her statement to me was, I got to work with these people long after your case is settled. I'm not getting in the middle of that. What? What? You think policemen huddle around themselves? You think the cops put up a blue wall? To think that the defense doesn't suck the cock of the prosecutor and vice versa, you don't know what you're talking about. You just don't know what you're talking about. The system is corrupt from the fucking floor up. And honest, decent people, which I consider Donna to be, 100%. I think she's an extremely decent person. Works in the system and has no idea because she's never really looked at it from the outside in. She's never really looking at it from the point of a person, yeah, I'm a layman. I don't have a law degree. But I don't think there's anything in your law degree that I couldn't go get myself by opening up a few books and studying. But it's the application of these degrees. It's the application of the fucking sweet science of law That's where the real fucking dirt hits the road. You know, it's one thing to have, like I say, if the lawyer you're talking to isn't fucking tied to a law library or law clerks, then you don't have a good lawyer. Because the lawyering starts long before you get in front of a judge. The lawyering starts with a review of case law based on the charges placed against you and the circumstances alleged in those charges. That all matters. Unbelievable. It looked like a dead squirrel in Ethan's hand. I don't know if that was said. I didn't hear it, but we don't know how they got the BK. I think, and Donna's allowed to take a burn. Let me just say, I'm not being critical of Donna. Turvey is more like me. I'll say that as much as he's not trying to be your friend. This is business. This is business. And if you think that there's a strategy in not getting the identity, or at least attempting to identify all forms of evidence wherever it leads, if you don't think there's value to that, then that's not lawyering. You know, I mean, I agree with him. Especially on the information he was pointing to. He was pointing to hairs that clearly didn't belong to Brian Kohlberger. Who cares? And she said, what if it belongs to one of his friends? And so be it. Let it belong to one of his friends. It's still not Brian Kohlberger, right? I think she took a slight to that. Maybe some things he may have said to her off camera. But I think he's got a personality that's black and white, and it's point blank. This gentleman that was on tonight that had the makeup on, he's just a whiner. He didn't come on to give us any professional opinion about the Idaho 4. He came on to attack fucking Brett Turvey. And I'm a little disappointed in Donna for that, but I do understand that. I mean, listen to me go on and on and on. I just won't bring someone in to support my arguments, because my arguments, I think, are pretty self-supporting. I don't think Brian Kohlberger was treated as a criminally accused citizen should be treated. And again, it's not because I think the guy is guilty. It's not because I want him set free. It's because I would like, and I hope and I pray that Americans can look at what they did here and see just how fucked up it is, and more importantly, the people that are in charge of these investigations look at these processes and how ineffective they are, how unskillfully fucking managed they are. It's just, it's tragic. How can you look at I say 5, but I'm going to go along with the mainstream narrative throughout YouTube. How can you look at poor Zana? No, Zana. How can you look at poor Kaylee with specifically, I'm going to say 4 weapons. A K-bar knife, a serrated knife, a double-edged knife, and something used to smash her beyond recognition? How can you look at a deceased murder victim that's been attacked by 4 different fucking weapons? How can oh my God, how can anybody that is involved in the legal processes accept that was done by one person? I just don't understand. I just don't understand how one person can do that. And I'm an ex-criminal. I mean, I chased a guy down a fucking sidewalk, hitting garbage cans and bouncing off fucking small trees to try to run his ass over in a big giant Lincoln Continental to kill him. And he turned and ran up a driveway and I couldn't chase him. But do you think after I ran him down, I was going to get out and get the crowbar and beat him, and I was going to put the crowbar away and get out a gun and shoot him? Put the gun away and get out with a fucking knife? I mean, I don't get it. Dead is dead. And you don't go into a crime scene with all them fucking weapons. At times, you'll utilize the weapons available to you because they just happenstance. Right? If you're in a room and the fucking knife gets knocked out of your hand and you turn around and there's a fucking iron sitting on a bedside table, you grab the iron and beat him with it. Right? But you don't take it with you. There's just so many inconsistencies in this case. And yet, the legal minds that be, the legal minds that look at it, the people that want to scream Brian did it, okay, he fucking did it. Explain to us in a way that's reasonable that crime scene. How Brian did this, and you can't do it. You can argue he's smart. He pled guilty. Well, I'm a smart son of a bitch too, and I've pled guilty to crimes dependent on the situation. Okay? Although I will admit on crimes where I thought I didn't do anything, I wouldn't plead guilty, and I actually ended up suing him twice. One for false arrest and one for fucking charging me with a crime I couldn't possibly have committed. But because I was part of the circle of people that were arrested, I became charged the same way they were charged, which is just stupid. That's what I mean by stupidity. It's not that I want to hear Kohlberger say, I want to see weapons, evidence of weapons used. Where's the double-edged knife? Where's the serrated knife? Where's the K-bar knife that they claim was used? Where's the instrument used to pummel poor Kaylee? Where are these? And I think there were 2 weapons used on Xana. Someone has to have some. Where did you bury the weapons, Brian? Our justice system has been turned into a joke. And the people that are in it argue to defend the joke that they perpetuate, not even realizing they're the people perpetuating it. That's the most fucked up thing to try to wrap your head around. But just imagine. You can't know what you don't know. That's just the way it works. You just can't know what you don't know. That applies to me. It applies to all of us. But it applies to people within the American justice system where they should know. There's no reason for them not to know. That's my point. Man. What's an airplane fucking mechanic supposed to say? I didn't know? When an airplane full of people goes to the fucking ground, I didn't know? Well, the fuck you working on airplanes for? The people want me to play this video again. Hit 1. I'll happily play it again. Hit 1 if you want to hear it. If I get more than 6 ones, then I'll play it. Yeah, I don't accept the fact that the kid pled guilty on you stuck him in a fucking jail cell for 2.5 years. She filed motions that, of course, okay, yeah, but not motions that we now know were never filed for. Some of the information that Dr. Turvey's presenting to us is information that was dropped at the very end of the case. This woman had been demanding discovery for 2.5 fucking years and didn't get it until the very last fucking week before trial. I mean, come on, Donna. Come on, lawyers. What gives you the fucking okay to do this to an American citizen? Who did Bill Thompson and his little jerk-off team of fucking ragtag losers, who are they to do this and handle the fucking prosecution that way? Is it so hard to do the right thing? And I'll get to the video now.
So experts that were hired for the defense are now publicly raising a bunch of issues and now making this known that they actually believe that Brian Kohlberger was not given all the facts by his lawyer in order to plea. So tell me about what you think about this strategy from defense experts, because this is very rare to have experts that work on a case come out and speak out against the lawyers, speak out about pieces of evidence that we were not made aware of. So tell me what you're thinking about it, because I know there's a lot of people out there that have differing views in terms of what's appropriate and what isn't. And I have spoken to a couple of the people, one that wrote the book Broken Plea by Christopher Whitcomb. I've spoken to Dr. Brent Turvey, who was hired by the defense in this case, who's now coming out and really coming after the defense. And I'm wondering what you think about it, because I have mixed feelings.
Well, I'll start with Brent Turvey because I've known about him since he graduated from college, I believe. He held himself as an expert. He wrote a textbook, and he basically was telling the FBI that we didn't know anything about profiling or criminal investigative analysis or crime scene analysis. As far as I'm concerned, anything that he says is suspect. He is a self-promoting fool as far as I'm concerned. And you know him. I'm sorry if he's your friend, but I know him from way back when
No, he told me that
was-
I didn't know that my strategy in trying a case was I don't remember what term he used, but it was basically that it was, you know, a novice way to look at it. And I've been trying cases for 26 years. So
because he's the expert. He actually
Yes.
he never investigated a case. He got himself hired by family members of people who were missing or killed, and if you look into his whole history there, that would be an interesting thing for you to do. But I know that in the past that he has been thrown out because he wasn't an expert. He was not allowed to testify as an expert in the past. Now he's got a PhD and he's got an institute and all this stuff, and maybe he's corrected his past foibles. But I will never give anything he says any credence, especially when he's apparently breaching confidentiality in a case with by outing legal defense strategies that.
And I want to be very clear for Jim Clementi, and Donna should have corrected him on this, because if Donna knows anything about this case, Donna is aware that nothing that Brent Turvey has ever spoken to wasn't released to the public. The only thing that wasn't released to the public was his personal interaction with the parents, that they approached him. But not a single thing he talked about in any of these interviews are things that weren't released publicly. In one case, they were released publicly by accident. The clumps of hair in Ethan's hand. The totality of the hair attached to the bed frame and the floor. Those images were released by the Idaho justice system, accidentally and withdrawn. Nothing Turvey talks about, nothing, is information that he can't talk about because it was never made public. I just wanted to point that out for Jim Clementi. The guy must be half Asian, because I'm just basing that off one of them fucking eyes of his.
That he was not apparently given permission to do. So
well, and
that's
he's
all
making
I'll
a
say about him. And
claim.
I don't.
No. And he's making a claim that the Koberger family reached out to him after he was on these, you know, different podcasts, not mine, but a different one. And they talked to him about the fact that, you know, their son was not made aware of some of these things. And, you know, of course, if that's true, and really the only thing that we agreed on was the fact that you should have all the facts before you make a decision about whether or not you're going to take a plea. But at the end of the day, Brian Koberger stood before a judge, and Brian Koberger said that he was making this a plea of his own free will. He answered every question the judge asked. He filled out a form ahead of time that also answered all those questions, and never one time. And one of those questions was, are you satisfied with your defense and your defense team? And the answer was yes. And of course, you know, Dr. Turvey's response to that was, well, he was just being a good.
I have to interfere with her again. That's not what he said, Donna. He said, you got a client that never spoke up, that never spoke out of turn, that never made a face in the courtroom, did everything you instructed him to do. That's a good client. Because if it were any one of us that I'm aware of as a human being that sat in that courtroom being accused of multiple homicides while Bill Thompson, the prosecutor's lying and hiding evidence to show that you didn't do it, or to question whether you did it or not, you'd be beside yourself. Koberger never did any of that. Koberger didn't make any bad looks. He didn't look in places he shouldn't be looking. He sat with his feet on the floor and looked in the manners he should, and he paid attention to the instructions of his attorney. That's what Turvey said to her. Not where she's going. And let me also say something else for lawyers and specifically you, Donna. You've never been locked in a cage for 2 years. Imagine being locked in a cage for 2+ years and your lawyer telling you there's no way you can win. What do you think the client's supposed to do? What? If 10% of what Turvey is saying is factually based, just 10% of it, this kid should not have any problem getting set free based on the behavior of his attorney or getting further processes added to go forward, and then a trial eventually. If just 10% of what Turvey is telling us is accurate, it's beyond comprehension that a man that claims he didn't do it is then walked headlong towards a death sentence, and then the very end of the case. Look at what happened at the very end of the case. These are facts that aren't good for attorneys or the justice system. There was a massive leak to a media outlet that would completely destroy it, and did completely destroy any chance Bryan Kohberger could have ever had at a trial. In the midst of that, she's in the process of trying to get a plea out of him with that as the backdrop. And just prior to that, the prosecution drops so many terabytes of data in a discovery filing that should have been there years ago. Let's be honest, not fucking weeks before a trial, years ago. On a case where you opened it up saying you had 51 terabytes of data, turned out to be 68 terabytes. Right? And 67.9% of that was fucking bullshit. It shouldn't have been used. What are they going to use at trial? Should have been separated absolutely. And in chronological order turned over to the defense. This is 2026, not 1915. This is why the justice system sucks. And you're in here defending the justice system to Bryan's actions, but what about what the justice system did in this case, whether it be this particular homicides or something else? Who the fuck does these prosecutors think they are doing this? A week before trial, they dump another document, dump a mega terabytes of info. What is a client supposed to say? When you know the attorney's telling them we're not going to be able to win, you're facing the death penalty. Now, Ann may have been absolutely right. What Ann did may have been in the bottom of her heart. It could be that she really realized these people are so fucking crooked in the way they're handling these documents that I got to get him to plead guilty or he's going to end up dead. That could be true. But the totality of what we witnessed over a 4-year period of time now, absolutely the most unprofessional, unconscionable behavior by the justice system against an American citizen, guilty or not guilty. We're supposed to be better than that. We're just supposed to be better than that. We're supposed to be careful. We're supposed to show them that following the rules matters. Following the rules gives you net gains. Being a good person is a positive in life. But you don't throw that all out the window because you think somebody's guilty of a crime. And you forget that doing it the right way, doing it the honest way, and doing it the best way matters. Matters every bit as much as it does to get the right person, even more so. Results are not the key. Results should be the end of doing all the things in the order properly, honestly, and fairly. Following the limits placed on government. That's how it's supposed to work. That's how we know as a country we can comfortably sit back and trust. Lawyers are the least trusted people in the world for these reasons as I'm explaining them to you. This is why a lot of American citizens mistrust. A lot of you lawyers shrug it off. They just don't know enough. They don't know. Well, what don't we know? What don't we know? Do we think that sitting in a cell for 2.5 years and getting a mega terabyte document dump weeks before trial is fair when you've been screaming for 2.5 years to get those documents? That's okay. How about when Ann Taylor says it was like playing 52-card pickup? There's 10 million documents in this case, enough to fill room after room of file cabinets, and they're delivering these documents like 52-card pickup. Is that the professional standard our state, we the people, is that the standard that we hire Bill Thompsons and people like him to work under? They're supposed to sabotage and try to destroy a citizen's ability to defend themselves because we want we want another notch on our desk? Nah, I'm telling you, these are the exact reasons why Americans don't trust lawyers. You guys should be straightening out yourselves. This shouldn't be happening. Hitler shouldn't have allowed that Bill Thompson to do this. Neither should Judge. And more importantly, when the defense argues that this is happening, that's when the judge is cued. Hello? Do your goddamn job.
client, because that's what good clients do. And I thought to myself, well, then I haven't had many of them because I get pushed back at every turn. And so I found all of that interesting. And so I'm just wondering, if you think that this strategy is going to work in any way, shape, or form for Brian Koberger out in Idaho.
Well, I don't think Koberger has anything to do with what Turvey said. And he has lawyers. Koberger does. And those lawyers are charged with doing the best thing for him. And Turvey doesn't, he gets hired and then he immediately not immediately, but at some point has a disagreement with the lawyer. So he decides he's going to take it to the public. It just sounds like a grandstanding move to get publicity to me, which is what he does very well. So I frankly, I don't even want to spend another breath of mine on that guy because I don't respect him at all. Now, Cy Ray, he's talking about cell phone data and mapping evidence. And look, there's no question that there's a lot of technology involved in getting that data, interpreting that data, making sure that it is turned over to the defense and so forth. There may be issues with that. Defense attorneys, as you well know, will make issues with every piece of evidence, no matter how solid it is. That's their job, to call into question that. And so for somebody, an expert, after the fact to say that there were issues, that's the general way things are at trials. They have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And that may be a conglomeration of a lot of different things that raises to the level of beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah, death by a thousand cuts, I like to call it.
For whatever reason, yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, he decided that he was going to plead guilty. His attorneys could not have made that decision unilaterally. They must have included him in that because he actually did it of his own free will. Otherwise, it would not have been accepted. So I am not at all moved by the arguments that there wasn't perfect evidence against him and that it wasn't a 100% tight case. When you're doing an investigation, you are left with the evidence that many times the defendant leaves for you. In this case, there is an extremely damning piece of evidence. There is no evidence that other people were involved or that Koberger wasn't involved. That's all we need to know. He pled guilty to it as well. He wasn't tortured to do that. He wasn't coerced in any way that we know. He certainly said he wasn't coerced. He's an intelligent person.
Exactly. That's what I said. He was a smart guy. He knew what he was doing. And he also, remember, there were mountains of motions filed in this case that the defense argued about different pieces of evidence. And so this was not a situation where you had a defense team that was laying down.
Well, mountains of evidence, which I don't know what Donna's referring to, but she's completely entitled to her thoughts onto whether Koberger's innocent or guilty. But I think that these people, see, when they say that he wasn't coerced, that's what I'm trying to say. When you lock someone in a prison cell for fucking 2.5 years, and this kid was locked in isolation, in a sense. He wasn't in general population because he wasn't a convicted criminal. You take someone's freedom away for 2.5 years and you watch them 24/7. You listen to every phone call they make and you fucking read everything they write. And you tell me that isn't torture. You got a defense team that couldn't produce the evidence that they had in their own fucking possession in a timely fashion to allow this guy to actually get himself to a courtroom. You did everything in your power to obfuscate, to misrepresent, and to delay every single thing that went on in this case. I'm telling you, she should never have allowed him to swap the 90 days, the right to a speedy trial, 90 days, 6 months, whatever it is. She fucked up when she didn't go for a preliminary hearing. These are things that lawyers do all the fucking time. Go sit in the courtroom. How does your client plead? Not guilty, Your Honor. Would you like the preliminary hearing or should I waive it for you? We'll waive it, Your Honor. All the time. And it's just, again, this is where the lawyers aren't doing their job. It's like the cop in the patrol car that gets trained. And the guy's driving 55 into 35. The trainee don't want to speak up to the trainer. Because that's where the system's systematically corrupt. These things matter. Doing what's right to the best of your ability all the time shouldn't be a job. It should come naturally. It shouldn't even be, like Wiz, you said earlier, doing what's right is the hard. It's the hard thing, and it's not. I've got 30 years of doing the right thing to the best of my ability. Every single moment, every single time that I had the choice to do it, I did it, and I didn't have to think of it most of the time. It just comes natural. It's not like I had to go out of my way or look it up in a fucking dictionary. When you do the right thing, you do the right thing. I owned a business. There were certain things that make the business a good business. There were certain things that you were supposed to provide. Mainly, you keep your fucking word. Right? Not as complicated as lawyering. I'll go with that. Not as complicated as lawyering. But then I also ran transmission shops, which is like a mechanical hydraulic computer. Okay? And I did the right thing when I was the manager there too. Because to me, doing the right thing was more important than the fucking end result. Because I'll tell you something. When you do the right thing and you get the end result wrong, you're forgiven. Let me say that again. When you do the right thing and you get the wrong result, you're forgiven. No, I was on my own at 14. I had a horrible upbringing. I don't want to get into hashing that out. We all have our story, right? We all have our crosses to bear. But I know for a fact that when you do the right thing and you get it wrong, you get forgiven. And I don't think most of the people, especially these attorneys, they don't understand what isolation and the loss of freedom does to a person. You're stuck in a fucking cage for 2.5 years waiting for trial. That's unimaginable. And getting out of that situation anything is better than that. So you start to think. It's insane, man. It's insane. And then you got a lawyer. I don't suspect. Listen, I think a lot of what Turvey is saying, and maybe a lot of what Donna's not comfortable with, is all of these plea deals. A lot of these cases, whether the guy's guilty or not, is not the fucking decision of the attorneys that are defending you. They're there to make sure that the prosecution, the state, the government, did what was right by their side. And if they didn't, well, then even a guy that's killed 4 people heinously has a chance of getting out of fucking jail or not even being convicted at all. There's a reason why the system's adversarial like that. There's a reason why this country was designed the way it's designed. And it's not based on fucking convenience, right? It's a system of governments by a free people. And limits placed upon the governance that we'll accept. And it's as if none of these people even remember that's why the country was founded. It's just shocking to me. It's stunning to me. That's why I think I'm so tied to the case. And I think that's why so many of you were tied to the case. We're not concerned with whether Brian Koberger did it or not. But I'm certainly concerned, like the other day, Steve G himself was talking about that shoe print by Dylan's door. He said that would have been brought up at trial. That would have blown everybody's mind. The shoe print was probably Ethan's. The shoe print may have belonged to one of the fucking investigators, right? But the shoe print didn't belong to the perpetrator. That we know. They knew that then. There's no way you can identify that shoe print without identifying the suspect based on what they put in a probable cause affidavit to arrest this guy to begin with. If that shoe print were connected to the crime, then whoever's fucking footprint that is should be in jail, not Brian Koberger. Because we know it's not his. But the truth of the matter is, we also know that that footprint has nothing to do with the crime. According to them, that they found the fucking shoe. The shoe that made that print was fucking found. It's terrible, man. Because they found the shoe that made the print. The white rabbit. I don't know whose shoe it was. A lot of people out here are running around saying it was Dylan's. And I think that that's just... No. No. There's no evidence that it was Dylan's. We don't know. But we do know that they found that shoe print. The owner, they found the shoe that made that print. Let's leave it at that. And it was found, from what I understand, in the home. So, I forget where that was written down. I think that was presented to us by Turvey. No, by Whitcomb. So, as far as the accuracy of his statement, that's where that comes from. The shoe print and the shoe that made it were found in the home. I think it was the dog's pee. You want to know the truth? That's what I think it was. It may even have been that dog pee pad could have been over by her doorway. And so whoever just said the dog, you're right. But that statement in the probable cause affidavit that said that there was a shoe print made by the suspect leading in the direction of Dylan Morton's statement when she saw him. That shoe print was part of the arrest warrant, and even fucking Steve G's laughing about it, that stupid fuck. It was on the couch nearest to Dylan's room. You're absolutely right. I don't know if it was on the floor. But that shoe print supported a warrant to arrest a man for a quadruple homicide and a felony burglary. That shoe print had nothing to do with the crime. And if it did, it came from a second perpetrator that's not Brian Koberger. How do you like them apples? It blows up the entire fucking story. That shoe print. I think there's so much who covered up the two young women upstairs? Who put the comforter over them? Is that the last thing fucking Maddie did before she sprang her last breath, was covered up? Snuggled up and covered up with Kaylee? Is that what we're to suspect? Is that what Steve, is that what you're accepting? That those two poor young women upstairs, one being your daughter and the other one being your daughter by friendship through your own daughter? Is that what she did on her last breath, is pull a comforter over her and Kaylee? Can you even wrap your head around the implications of them being covered up? Can you even begin to understand what that means? Is that what we're supposed to accept? The horrific, brutal fucking brutality used on your poor daughter. And then the person was kind enough to cover him up. Night-night. Night-night. That's just a level of ignorance that can't be excused. Same thing with the investigators in the case. How about covering up fucking Ethan? I suggest now that we need to question the time of arrival. We need to consider that Ethan and Zaina didn't show up at that house at the same time. We need to consider that Ethan was dead in that bed before Zaina ever arrived. Which would ruin their timeline. This is why we're interested in this case, because not a single thing that they presented to us matches what they describe happened there. That's the tragedy. I'm so fed up with the justice system. When New York State expands the statute of limitations so some woman can falsely accuse Trump of sexual abuse in a civil case. Are you serious? Why didn't they do that when a Brinks truck was robbed by $10 million here in my community? Why didn't they expand the statute of limitations on that crime? Why? I don't know. Somebody's tit being touched versus $10 million being stolen. What's the purpose of a statute of limitation if the legislator can sit down and extend it by a few days? What the fuck good is that law? If you could tamper with that law so that you could create political havoc in the country. It's fucking insane what they did here. It's the people in the system that are the problem. It's not the system. The system, if operated properly, wouldn't be doing what it's doing. That's the thing. I'm not personally attacking any individual lawyer. I'm just saying that if you follow the fucking rules and call each other out when you're not following them, then you could fix the system. The system isn't broke. The people are fucking broken. They're lazy. They're greedy. Man. It's wrong, man. Wrong. You know, I went through a divorce on a fictitious order of protection filed against me. Fictitious in its face. And you know what my lawyer told me to do? There's nothing you could do. It's filed. Guess what? Guess what I learned later on, after I fired that fat fuck? I learned that in New York State, that if you're denied access to your primary property through an order of protection, that you have 5 days to fucking appeal it. I was never told that by my lawyer. Never. That fat bastard. I almost threw him off the garage parking, the parking lot of the garage parking lot above the fucking Justice Building. There's a parking garage. I grabbed that bastard by his necktie and started dragging him towards the wall. And at the time, my father stopped me. I was so furious with this guy. I did nothing wrong. I would never hurt my ex-wife, ever. No woman at all would I hurt. Stab, punch, threaten. No. No, men don't do that. A woman could slap you. You don't hit him back. You walk away. That's what you do. That's what we never had any physical violence in our relationship. There's never been a policeman ever called ever in my relationship. We literally fell out of love. Okay? So, man, I'm telling you, I've had some bad experiences with lawyers. And, you know, the experiences were bad, not because, maybe because mainly they were stupid or just uneducated. They passed the bar and then they're going to coast the rest of their life. And then it's who they know. You know, I think we should have lots of streams on the inappropriate chaos that we suffer because of lawyers. Right? I don't think lawyers should be allowed to be politicians. And that's counterintuitive because politicians are dealing with law. But it's the lawyers that make these fucking rules, these laws, these codes, these fucking variances and all these other things that just fuck everybody's life up. Can't even put a fence up in your fucking yard without having the town pay them for a permit. And in some areas, you can't even paint your fucking house without going paying for a permit. Unbelievable. For what? We live in a real fucked up time, and I think our biggest problems are lawyers. Okay? When it comes to why our system is fucked up. You know, these people, these lawyers have an opinion of themselves that's just filthy, in my opinion. It's disgusting. They're all one big clique, and we're not part of it. They didn't even know they're unethical. That's the worst part, Robert. They don't see what they're doing is unethical. Not even close. Man, oh man. I'll tell you right now, you ever get fucking caught up in an accusation for a multiple homicide, you better have fucking lawyers raining down for the first fucking 15 days of your incarceration. Or 12 days of your incarceration. Okay? Lawyers should be raining like a fucking thunderstorm so that you can get your ass in front of a preliminary hearing and knock those government lawyers on their ass and get yourself free. No, I don't want to say that about lawyers. I don't want to suggest any violence be brought their way. I think most of them are generally very good people. But they're in a club. They don't even realize it. And we're not part of it. We're like the minions. What could we possibly know? Well, I don't know. If we can read and write, we had a comprehension level, at least a fucking 12th grade educational comprehension level, we can go into a law library and figure the fuck out ourselves. Like I've done numerous times. I used a fucking real estate lawyer to represent me in a criminal charge. And the reason I used a real estate lawyer was because he was attached to a law firm that had access to a law library that he had free hand in every weekend and allowed me to go into that law library and look up the issue I was having and discover that the issue I was having was eminently beatable with a few motions filed, which still took months to do. But in the end, I was absolutely correct. He didn't even stand up and represent me. He allowed me to represent myself in front of the judge. I told you guys about this. It's crazy, man. I think lawyers could do 1,000 times more effective job. And I think Americans, we need to see the consequences of a mismanaged justice system. And yes, that means murderers not being convicted. That's what it means. If that's what it takes for the people that run the system to start running the system by the book, then that's what we need. It's sad. It's unfortunate. But it's gotten this way because of those that have been operating the system. You know, I'm just one guy with a small channel. My words, they ring true, I think, for, you know, I don't know how many viewers I'll get in here on this particular stream. Who cares? Who cares? You know, sometimes the battle is won because you have one person that you can build on from or bounce back and forth from. Right? And sometimes that'll echo throughout time. And that's just how it is. You know, I mean, Gandhi changed the course of history, didn't he? And he didn't start out with any advertisers or any big fucking stream followers. He just did it by walking and not eating. Gandhi! Remember, you guys ever watch Seinfeld? When Elaine had some elderly person, they decided they were going to be good doers, take care of old people. The lady had a goiter on the side of her neck that was bigger than her head. She sat in the dark. Oh my God! That lady said she slept with Mahatma, and Elena's like, "Get out of here, Gandhi! The Mahatma? You slept with the Mahatma? Oh, he was so good in bed." That shit was stupid, man. Listen, the lawyers I had in family law weren't worth the fucking diapers I was throwing out after I changed my daughter. I mean, when a law guardian goes racist about me being a no-good dago, I mean, I got him thrown off the case. As a matter of fact, you want to hear something funny? I got rid of all of my lawyers. I had 3 different lawyers and started running this divorce myself. And I called the law guardian to the stand and argued the law guardian needs to sit on the stand because they sent me to a place called, they sent me to some place where, it was supervised visitation. Listen to this. I go to the supervised visitation. That was a great episode. Just listen to this, folks. And they're playing videos of children playing with the bubbles. You know the bubbles with the little round stick? You stick it in the bubbles and you blow it? You guys know what I'm talking about. Okay? You guys know what I mean? Hit 1 if you know what I mean. How you make those bubbles. It's a liquid, a soap liquid. You stick the stick in and you blow it. Remember those? Okay. Well, they're showing a video of the kids arguing back and forth about who gets to blow the bubble next. And they're showing videos of this, and I think I gotta look, because it's a little bit. Okay. So they're showing this video of these kids arguing with these bubbles. And there's 4 or 5 kids in the room. But at least 3 of the kids, listen, at least 3 of the kids shouldn't have been in the room with the bubbles. Because the bubbles are for kids. At the time, I think it was 4 and above. Okay? And so the teacher plays this video and asks, how would you manage the issue these children are having? And I raised my hand. And she says, yes, sir. I said, I wouldn't have any of those issues if I was in the room with those children. And she really, she peeks right up thinking I'm going to say something like I'm going to smack the kids or yell at the kids. I could just see it in her eyes. She was just waiting to pounce on me. She goes, and how exactly can you make the claim these children wouldn't be doing what they're doing now? I said, because the age of those children is too old for the toy that they're playing. They're too young. That toy is for children 4 and above, and those kids are clearly under the age of 4, even under the age of 3. You got one of them still in diapers. I said, so I never would have introduced that toy to the entertainment of those children, and therefore I never would have had that problem. She just didn't know what to say. This woman froze. Talk about frozen shock phase. And she goes, are you sure? I said, yeah, I'm sure. Look on the table. The bottle's right on the table. Can you magnify that? Look at what it says on the bottle for ages 4 and above or 3 and whatever it said. Yeah. Well, you don't wear diapers at the age of 3, 4. I don't know if you're still using diapers. I don't think so. But anyway, when she looked at the bottle, she confirmed what the ages were. And the kids in the room were under, for the majority of the children in the room were under that age. That's the moral of the story. She just looked at me. And she says, that's a very good answer. I said, well, not only is it a good answer, but maybe the people that make these films that you're going to help teach me to be a good parent by shouldn't be making films that are inappropriate for the ages of the children they're presenting us. So here's what ends up happening. These people, now I have visitation, supervised visitation. And I go in the room, I get there every time I show up for visitation, I get there 20 minutes early. I bring my own miniature shop vac, and I start going between the cushions of the couch, because the cushions are sewn to the couch, behind the cushion where it meets the seat, along the sides where the arms are. And I'm vacuuming up M&Ms. I'm vacuuming up candy. I'm vacuuming up different sweets and snacks that other people have brought there. And the lady comes in, she goes, what are you doing? We clean this place. I said, my daughter has a peanut allergy. I said, so it's not that I'm suggesting you're not cleaning. This is not trying to be an insult, but an M&M with peanuts, and I opened up the small, I had a small shop vac, a 1 gallon shop vac. I opened it up, there was probably a dozen of M&Ms with peanuts in it. I go, these would send her into a allergic reaction. The report these people wrote about my parenting skills was almost, it was complimentary in a way that was almost beyond comprehension. So when we go to court, now listen, the law guardian recommended this piece of shit. I go. They come back and say that he taught us things we were unaware of about our own facility and ensured the safety of his child, which helped us ensure the safety of other people's children. They weren't allowed to testify because the law guardian that demanded I go to fucking supervised visitation objected. That motherfucker objected and said it was hearsay. I lost my mind, fired my attorney, and told the judge I want the law guardian on the stand. And the law guardian was then dismissed, and the statement by the judge to the court was, you've become, if not a total party to the proceedings, you're heading so far in that direction that I'm going to have to honor this guy's request. He said, so I'm going to have to dismiss you. And they ended up dismissing that law guardian. Unbelievable the shit I've gone through with lawyers, man. And multitude of different men, women, prosecutors, lifelong criminal attorneys. The best attorney I ever had was a fucking real estate lawyer that didn't know jack shit about criminal law. And he was the most effective lawyer in the criminal law area that I'd ever seen in my life. You know why? Because he knew he didn't know and he was willing to listen. He knew law. And when I brought out the case law that supported my argument against this charge that I was fighting, he read the fucking charge, he read the case law, he goes, yeah, you'll win with that. He goes, I know that, and I'm a real estate lawyer. Yikes, I didn't hire the law guardian. Hell no, I didn't hire that fucking jerk off. What a piece of shit he was. I don't care what my family did. I'm not my family. I didn't know my family till I was 18 years old. I didn't even live with, I mean, it had nothing to do with my family. Nah, he wasn't related to Dago. Anyway. So, do I have a, am I jilted or something? What word do you use? And my opinions of lawyers, from my experience, and sadly, folks, this is no crown. I had a lot of experience with lawyers because I did a lot of bad things. Okay? But I learned that some of the worst things that are done are by the lawyers themselves because they're ignorant. Yeah, jaded, that's it. Am I jaded? Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not jaded to the point where I think every lawyer is no good. I think that's just insane. That's not true at all. I think lawyers that have access to law libraries and law clerks are spectacular lawyers because they have multiple brains looking at the same issue, digging for case law to support the argument he's going to make in court. And I think that's a winning combination. Sometimes you can't win, but when you have a team that's equipped to actually do the job, then you have stand an extremely good chance. Also, realize that a lawyer that's equipped, that's powerfully equipped like that, is in some cases better equipped than the prosecutors themselves. Prosecutors will ask a question a stupid motherfucker shouldn't ask. They open up a whole nother line of questioning. I think that's true, Leah. Yeah, you can. I was a jailhouse lawyer. I wasn't in jail that long, though. I only spent 6 months. Then I went to a 1-year inpatient program, graduated in 9 months. Here's the best thing. I could document and show people this, so I say this with total confidence. Not only did I graduate a 12-month rehab in 9 months, but after 6 months of the rehab process, I became the assistant to the director of the fucking rehab. Unpaid position. I was the head resident in the house. And only way you could get to, and this included counselors, the only way you could get to the fucking, the president or the person in charge of this rehab was to make an appointment through me. I managed their schedule. They literally wanted to send me to school at college for me to be a counselor. And I said, no, absolutely not. I cannot associate with people that are lives like mine for the rest of my life. No, rehab did not allow me to reduce my sentence. My rehab was set up that if I didn't graduate, I automatically accepted a 7 1/3 to 10-year sentence. No, mine wasn't like that. Listen, I agreed. If I couldn't straighten my ass out, I didn't belong in society. I knew that. And in my plea deal, it was pretty harsh, man. Okay? And I didn't have an objection to that because I know that if I decide to fuck up and go be who I was, then no. There was no help in it. This rehab, if you didn't tie your shoes, okay, they would make you walk around with no shoes. If you didn't make your bed, you wouldn't have any blankets. This place was brutal, man. Had a very low success rate. But what it did have, in 5 years, it had a 92% success rate of graduates. That if you graduated over the course of the next 5 years, you had a 92% chance of success. That's why I went to that rehab. They even let me pick my own rehab from jail. They were going to send me to a 30-day rehab. What time frame was I in? This happened a long time ago, 32 years ago. Listen, I had an opportunity to change my life, and it's done so much for me that I can't even put it in words. Right? It's done so much for me because I decided to be a participant. I decided to be a participant in the path that they allowed me to walk. And once I got on that path, the one thing I learned, for anybody that has an alcoholism or a drug problem, you do all the 12 steps you want. But I'll tell you the one thing that'll get you sober and keep you sober is just don't lie. Don't lie to yourself and don't lie to others. Don't. About anything. There's just no point in it. Yeah, I was in my 20s, but I was on my own at 14 too, so I had a lot of fucking problems, man. I had to change my life. And it wasn't even that I just wanted to live a different life. You know, I was selling jobs in my early 20s for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 and wondering, where do these people get this money? How the hell do you do that where you could just write a check? I'm selling work worth tens of thousands of dollars, but I never had to understand it. How the hell do you get to a point where you have that kind of money? I was a confused young person, literally confused, on the wrong road. Even the therapist that they had both of us go to, the psychiatrist, or whatever the fuck they labeled these people. He said that right in the stand. He said most people, he said, if you're just going to go on the statistics of how people like him turn out, then he should be a murderer. He should be a serial killer. That could be, it's transcribed in court documents. That's exactly what either a clinical psychologist or a psychiatrist, wherever the court sent both her and I to go. He said he's quite the opposite of that. He goes, I don't know why anybody's having a problem with him visiting with his child. There's simply nothing wrong with the man. And as a matter of fact, he said, anybody in this room that thinks they can hold a candle to this guy is mistaken. You shouldn't be judging him. You should get to know him. It was quite, I started crying when the psychiatrist was saying this. I had no idea what his report was going to be. But it was like one of those moments that I'm scared this guy's going to say, no, don't let him around his kid. He's got a bad background. He was a drug addict. That's what they were using against me, to keep me away from my kid. But I hadn't done drugs for 10 years by the time I went through a divorce. So there was no reason to use, but they used my entire past against me to keep me away from my own child, which was insane. And then when that psychiatrist got up there, he let them all have it, judge included. He said, this shouldn't even be a discussion in this divorce. He said, especially for those of you that don't know him. And he goes, and even worse, for the person that was married to him and does know him. Yeah, that was quite a moment. No, Big Amish, I didn't. I had a moment where I just knew I couldn't go on like this. Either going to die, be killed, kill somebody. I just couldn't keep doing it. It was enough. Enough is enough. I say that now in life too. All my friends, how come you retired? How come you retired? You weren't even working. And it was true. I worked 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, 9 months a year. Literally, I swear, kill me right now. That was my work schedule. And I sold the business for a fraction of what it was worth. Because when's enough enough? When is enough money enough? I mean, and if that's all I'm interested in doing is amassing more and more and more and more, it's just crazy, man. I don't agree with that. Let these people that put these jobs together for me for all these years, for 15 years, let them have a chance at getting to where I got. I didn't get wealthy by myself. I got wealthy because I had great workers. And when's enough enough? Right? When's enough enough? I can't live for just money. Sorry, I can't do it. I had big yachts, 3,200 square foot home, triple car garage, cars, trucks, TV, everything. Vacations. When's enough enough? That's exactly where I've been for the last 10 years. I haven't had debt since I was 50 years old. No single debt have I had. Not even car debt. Unless, well, once or twice I leased. So I guess you could consider that a debt. But no. So yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, that's true. Most people, for whatever reason, don't ever snap out of that. I'll tell you that everything I did wrong, I knew I was doing it wrong when I was doing it. Every lie I told, everything I stole, every fucking con I ran, everything, I knew it was wrong as I was doing it. It didn't come as any surprise to me. I knew it. You know, I don't know if you could say that about every criminal. Some criminals don't have that. They don't have that in them to know, or even consider it, or even worry about it. They call it not having a conscience. I always had a conscience, but then, you know, you put that on the back burner, and eventually it catches up to you. You can't hide it forever, unless you never had it to begin with. And sadly, there are human beings born that don't have a conscience, or their upbringing beat it out of them. I don't know. But back to this crazy case of the Idaho 4. This is the epitome of what not to do. An investigation. What not to do with the collection of evidence. What not to do with the interpretation of it. Yeah, that's true, Leah. 100% true. But you cover that up with a drug. Right? You cover that up with crack, or you cover that up with alcohol, or you cover that up with whatever drug is going in you. Yeah, that's it too. I had to learn to love, and that came by learning to love myself before everything else. And people that are very successful and people that are wholesome and all of that do that without even realizing they're doing that. You know, I spent more than a couple hours today trying to make an eye appointment, and I couldn't make an eye appointment. I couldn't get people to answer the fucking phone. I couldn't get a company not to put me on hold and forget me. After a couple hours, I was like, this is insanity. I can hear. Did I say that? I thought I said eye exam. I couldn't get an eye exam. Did I say hearing exam? I'm sorry. Yeah. No, I mean, listen, I'm not shy about sharing portions of my life publicly. I have nothing to be afraid of, nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, you do things, and you do things for the wrong reasons. A lot of times you're surrounded with wrong reasons, and the wrong reasons are what you're trying to get away from, and you're doing the wrong things to get away from them. And that's just how it works. You don't know what you don't know. You can't know what you don't know. That's why when I see what happens in these legal cases, or when I was into politics, it's so obvious to see. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know that 97% of these people getting plea deals is wrong. It's morally, ethically, and just unconstitutionally wrong. 97% of these people can't have committed the crime. And the other thing that's even worse than that is they're using guilty pleas to reduce punishment. So that's coercion right there. I'm sorry, but that's a form of coercion. You can't go 100 and a 55 and be able to plead to a ticket of 65 and a 55. You're going to fucking 100. That's a form of coercion. You can't have felony robbery and be given a top misdemeanor and replace of that to plead guilty. That's coercion. The justice system doesn't see it that way. They don't understand it that way. They won't look at it for what it really is. That is a form of corruption. Pleading guilty to avoid the death penalty is coercion. It's coercion. Someone ought to put me in front of the Supreme Court to argue some of these cases. Give me 6 months or a year in a law library and give me a case and let me go stand in front of those 9 judges. It's a different degree of coercion. It's still coercion. You can't change what it is by trying to explain it. That's what a liar does. That's what a con man does. That's what a bullshitter does. You can't justify wrong by an explanation. That's what they do with these plea deals. It's unjust. It's unjust to the citizenry that you're protecting. This jerk off was going 100 and a 55. It's not calling a spade a spade. This case is reminiscent of saying a black guy committed the crime and the accused is black, lock him up. That's the equivalency I give this Koberger case. And this kid might have done it. But I'll tell you what he didn't do. Lawyers do it every day. That's correct, Big Amish. It's not due process. They shouldn't be making offers. If you want to avoid the court and the court costs and the attorney fees, then plead guilty to the crime. All right? Maybe you can negotiate the punishment, but you should not be able to negotiate the actual nature of your crime. Your crime is your crime, and you need to own it. If they want to then take into consideration that you're a good citizen and blah blah blah, and not take your license away but suspend it for 6 months instead of terminating it, that's fine. But take the lumps for what the fuck you did. And they shouldn't be able to use these tools as a way to get you to confess to something. If you did it, you did it. Why play these fucking games? Especially in criminal cases. And I find it hard to understand Steve especially. He quotes exactly what's wrong with this case, not even realizing there was a clump of hair in the photograph released. And if the photograph released isn't a clump of hair, then it needs to be explained that it's not a clump of hair. But it certainly isn't a single fucking strand of hair as written in the report amongst debris. That's not what it was. What debris? What debris could this kid possibly have fucking picked up? Let's sort through this. You're on your bed and some fuck is killing you with a knife. What debris is going to end up in your hand? Can someone tell me what the fuck kind of debris do you have on your bed? Was the bed covered in potato chips? Was he eating in bed? Was he cutting his fucking toenails in bed? Can you explain to me what in the fuck the debris is in a bed? I don't ever have debris in my bed. I don't know about you people. Have you ever had debris in your fucking bed? Is the debris then related to the crime? Is it possible that the debris that you're referring to has a connection to the killer? Jesus Christ. Oh my God. And they're relying on the police report, the very police report that was a lie, that there was debris in their hand and a strand of hair. Come on now. Yeah, debris is a code. Debris is a code. Yeah, and I'm very passionate about this stuff. I'm not angry. I think sometimes when people are up here on my stream, they think I'm getting angry or something with them, and I'm not. I'm very passionate about certain things. I'm very passionate about life. I'm very passionate about the opportunities life has afforded me. Because no matter what horror stories I can tell you about my life, the one thing that I can never ever forget, and I never will forget, is that even the worst wrongdoer of all is still given a hand up. A hand is still reached out to you. For better or for worse. That's the strength of this nation. That's the strength of people. The people of this country. That's where this country becomes this country. Oh, I could run a platoon. I could run a platoon. I've had entire restaurants shut the fuck up and comes to a stop. When I seen a woman choking across the room and people staring at her and people oohing and oh my God, and I just yelled, out of the fucking way! Get out of the way! Shut up! The whole room quieted down. And I went and I did the Heimlich maneuver. Now here's a question about the Heimlich maneuver. Here's the question. Who did he practice on? I wouldn't have wanted to be his friend, good old Heimlich. What about his poor wife? Was he practicing that on his wife? How did he figure that shit out? Way back when there were no test dummies. I mean, nobody wanted to be friends with Heimlich until after. Until after his success. But I'll tell you what, on that road to success, he probably had few friends. The Heimlich maneuver. Yeah, we listen. There's a lot of bad in our country, but it's a small percentage. Let's never forget that, folks. But I think what we also have to remember is that within that small percentage, they do end up in the clutches of our justice system. And that small percentage just meets the percentage of people that are in a club. It's just very sad. You know, and I'm not saying everybody in jail is innocent by a far shot. I think I know for a fact 1, 2, 3, and let's say I was in front of the court 10 times for 10 different things. I don't even know the number. I know for an absolute fact that 3 of them were unjustified, and I have evidence of that because two of them. I was paid $15,000 combined in a civil suit against them. And one of them, the charges were dismissed outright. So at least on 3 of these cases, the victories were not just victories, but 2 of the 3, they paid me for their mistake. And let me just tell you something. On one of the ones where I sued, I was sitting in a courtroom. And when I walked out of a courtroom, The cleanest, crispest, neatest, most perfect looking fucking dude was standing there. And he could never have been anything but a policeman. The shape of his face, his build, the creases in his uniform, the shininess of his shoes and his badge. This guy's socks probably fucking shined. I ain't never seen on TV more of a policeman than that policeman. And if he wasn't the nicest fucking person I'd ever met in my life, I wish I could have become friends with the guy. He says, "Is this your name?" I said, "No." And I kept trying to watch. He said, "Excuse me, sir." He said, "I've been instructed to arrest you and bring you to this particular town for this particular charge." I go, "Well, what?" He goes, you've got a failure to appear for a sentencing in a town of so-and-so. I said, "I've never been charged with a crime in that town at all. I would know." I go, "The person you're naming is a stepbrother. It's not me. It's my stepbrother you're looking for." He goes, "Sir, I'm here to arrest you." He said, "I can do nothing more than what I was ordered to do. And if you'd please turn around and put your hands behind your back and I'll walk you out to the car." And as he puts the cuffs on, he says, "I'm going to loosen these." He says, "So that there's no chance that they're going to leave any marks in your wrist or be uncomfortable." And he walks me out to the car and he's talking to me. Nicest fucking guy I ever met in my life. It was almost like a pleasure being arrested. This guy made the whole experience like, this is the best arrest I've ever experienced, literally. I didn't say that when I sued, but we're riding and we're talking. And I said, "I'm not the guy in that paper." He says, "In my opinion, you're not the guy in the paper either." He says, "But it's not for me to determine. It's for the court to determine." He says, "So I'm going to have to bring you down, put you in a holding cell, and wait for court to call you in." It was great. It was like a love story with a cop. It was the most fucked up thing I'd ever... But to this day, I wish I'd have got the guy's name and kept it. What a nice guy. Brought me in there, put me in the cell, took the cuffs off, asked me if can I get you something to drink? I go, "Is there any chance I can get coffee?" He goes, "Yeah, I get you coffee." "You hungry?" I go, "No, I'm not hungry, but a cup of coffee would be awesome." At that time, you could smoke. Gave me back my cigarettes and lighter. The guy was a gem, man. But he said it. He knew it. He goes, "I know you're not the guy they're looking for." He goes, "But there's nothing I can do." Okay. They paid me $5,000. I spent 2 hours in jail. And I had the best experience with a police officer in my entire life. Of all the cops I ever entered. And that's even better than the experiences I had than the cops that would come on my boat and drink till they were fucking passing out. I used to have a marina. I had a big boat in the marina. And I had all the cops and all these different business owners would come hang out on my boat. Yeah, I did smoke Marlboro Red back before they were $20 a pack. Yep. What up, 12 gauge? You peeked in here. What are you doing? You want to come up here and share a little bit about what you've been doing with yourself? For God's sakes. You're going to have a reason why you can't do that, I'm sure. But I'm still going to post a link in case you grow some balls. You never know. That 12 gauge might grow some balls. The name says, 12 gauge is pretty tough, but he's a rather nice guy. What say you, 12 gauge? I'm taunting you. I'm poking you. We're even on different sides of the aisle on this issue, I suspect. But that's okay. 12 gauge has always been very respectful. Never smoked a day in my life. Well, that's been my one companion that I've had my entire life. 12 gauge. Yeah, see? Love Tina knows you. Let's see what his excuse is tonight. What's he got going on? 12 gauge. Come on. Come on, 12 gauge. That'd be a good name for a dog. 12 gauge. Get a pit bull and name him 12 gauge. Get a Rottweiler. Name him 12 gauge. Oh my God. I know, I haven't even seen his stream come up. I think I'm subscribed to his stream. I haven't even, have you been streaming? Have you been streaming? I just shared a love story I had with a cop. It was absolutely awesome. There he is. Here he comes.
What's up, you hairy bastard?
What's going on? Fuck, what is it I used to say? You remind me of Mr. Potato Head. Remember that?
Yeah, you remind me of a lot of things, too. How you been, man?
I can't. I've been fucking awesome. Always awesome. I haven't had a bad day in years. How about you?
Yeah, I know you. I've been doing all right, man. Just putting it to the grindstone.
To the grindstones. Still helping them kids
Yeah,
with the parole stuff that you were doing?
trying. I'm still
Yeah.
trying.
Yeah, you're a good man. What else? Where's your boyfriend Jeff been?
I have no clue what Jeff is up to, man.
What a dickhead that Sergeant Friday is. He never changes.
Man.
Once a dick, always a dick. Yeah, have you been streaming? I haven't seen you
Hey,
out.
man, at least you're consistent. I respect people who can be consistent, right? You know,
Well, you know
don't be
what you're getting
flaky.
with
Don't
me.
be
I'm not a
wishy.
pretender, right? I'm who I am, and I don't bend and change for favor, for fortune, or for friends. That's just who I am. But you were always a good
Yeah,
guy. Have you been
yeah,
streaming though?
yeah, man. I've been streaming. I even started my own radio network over there on Live 365.
Oh yeah? How's that going?
Going pretty good, man. Going pretty good.
That's awesome, man. That's fucking
Enjoying
awesome.
it. Enjoying. I do a nightly show sometimes. I just finished one a while ago. I saw that
What's
you
the
were
name?
on. I thought I'd hop up here because I stood you up the other night.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand. And
So
it's
what you
hard for me to
talking about? What you talking about?
what in here tonight.
Yeah.
There was that Donna. What's her name there? Donna from. I got it in my description there. She brought another expert on, and all the expert did was trash on Cy Ray. Donna Rotuno. Crime and Justice with Donna Rotuno. So I played her clip with this guy. He's supposed to be a criminal behaviorist or something like that, but he didn't talk about anything on the case. He just attacked Brent Turvey and left. It was kind of ridiculous, man. And
I pop in and out on that case, man. I mean, I'm not as fanatical as I was, there for a while, streaming every night, talking shit about it. Now I just pop in and out. I just went in my page and actually deleted a bunch of posts that I did on Hoburger because not that I don't believe anything different than I've always believed, but you know, time to give other people the platform. Like you said at one time, we have this microphone, we have this platform. Why don't we do some good with it? You know?
yeah, I agree. I stayed away for almost 8 months after the plea deal. I really had nothing to do with it at
Yeah.
all. I didn't want to have anything to do with it, and I wasn't going to unless some other development came forward. And then he applied for the post conviction relief, and just prior to that, there was information being released from the state itself and from experts that just was information that was never given to us. And it's
Right.
it's it's information that really poses. It makes some of the questions that people have had for years come to life. It's rather incredible, and now it's worth seeing where it goes because to me, whether he did it or not, it's clear based on the information that we've been given that you can look at it from the point of view that this kid was misled, that information that Ann Taylor had was never shared with him, motions that could have been filed were never filed, and then there was a leak that doomed him. There was a leak to the mainstream media just before the trial, and shortly after that leak, she got a plea deal to come forward with him. So the cascade of events and information is quite intense. It's still nothing that they show puts him at that house, unless you believe their story. But if you take their story and just look at their images, you don't know what the hell you're looking at.
Well, I've always said, and I know that you and I have been on streams before on my channel, and I've said it. It's never been a perfect investigation. I've never said it was perfect. I've never said that the attorneys did a great job, on both sides. I believe that the whole case has a lot of questions. I've never doubted that. I
Yeah,
just don't know. I don't have the energy to spend as much time as other people do involved in it. You know what I mean? Like I have my own world, real world problems out here,
yeah,
trying to keep people out of out of jail, and and so
No, I
forth.
know, and you
So
got another life. I'm fortunate. I've always had spare time, but even once he pled guilty, I that was it for me. I couldn't even imagine that he would have done what he did. It was all of a sudden. It came out of the blue. Now we're getting information from some of the experts that there may be a reason for that wasn't favorable to Brian, and we'll see what happens going forward. But I suspect over time, and I'm not going to cover this for years, but especially this particular issue here with Judge Hippler, whether he approves this guy another trial or not, or post conviction relief, wherever that leads him. I think the kid's got a good shot at getting it based on
so do you
what he wrote
believe
and that's scribbling.
what do you
Go ahead.
believe that Turvey was gonna say on the stand? I mean, how was he gonna how would he have been able to present his information as an expert? I mean, as far as I know, he was hired to kind of oversee the crime scene to make sure everything added up on the defensive side. But
Hmm.
how was he actually? Do you believe that he was actually going to testify, or
Oh
was he
yeah.
just a consultant?
He, no, he was going to testify. He'd already had a hotel room rented and his bags packed. He only learned about the confession because someone called him after the confession. He didn't believe it. He was beside himself. What do you mean he can be? No, not the Koberger case. Yeah, no. And he had to call to make sure that that was true. He was taken aback. He just couldn't believe it. And his information was information that none of us had for years. That's the other part too. When you find out that there's a handful, there's literally photos released of Ethan with a big clump of hair in his hand, and it ain't Koberger's. It ain't any of the residents. The FBI checked it, but they referred to it in the report to the defense. The discovery said there was debris and a strand of hair in Ethan's hand. Well, that's not the truth. The truth is there was a clump of hair in
So
Ethan's hand covered in blood. So, yeah,
here's
I
a,
think it
here's
would
a
have made a big
question
difference. Go ahead.
here's a question for you, sir. How come they didn't like if that was exculpatory? How come Ann didn't bring it up during any of those hearings?
She didn't
Like,
get it till a week
you know,
before.
how,
She didn't get that, and she didn't get the lack of custody on the knife sheet till a week before the hearing where he pled guilty. There was a big mega terabyte dump on the defense just prior to the trial,
right,
and
I remember that.
that's when Turvey picked up on this information and brought it to her attention. So now Brian Koberger's parents are telling Turvey that Brian Koberger was never given this information before the plea deal. So there's some shit here, and there always was shit, and them not being able to explain that shoe print that they argue was the direction of travel for the perpetrator. We now know that
Mm-hmm.
that shoe print came from a shoe they found in the house, not the perpetrator's walking. So the shoe print's got nothing to do with this crime, but yet they use it in
Right.
the PCA to arrest this guy. So there's a
Yeah,
lot
you're
of things.
talking about the one by Dylan's
Yep.
door.
Yeah. Remember in the PCA where she said she looked out her door and saw a guy in black with a mask heading to what she thinks heading
Yeah,
towards the sliding glass door, and then in the PCA they said there was a shoe print in the hallway confirming the direction of travel to Dylan's statements. That shoe print has nothing to
well,
do
we
with her
always
statement.
thought
It
that
has nothing to do with it.
wasn't his shoe print. We always thought that wasn't his shoe print. Who would go in there in a pair of Vans to commit a crime like that?
Well, but here's
You
the
know what I
thing.
mean?
They knew it too. Here's the catch, though. They knew it before they wrote the PCA. Do you understand how? So in other words, Dylan in all of her interviews keeps saying, "I don't know if I was drunk. I don't know if this happened. If this was a dream. I'm not lying to you. I can't say this is for sure." So everything she said was not usable in court. But the mode of travel, where she says that she saw a guy in black heading towards the sliding glass door, was supported by the footprint, which would make her statement valid. Only that they knew before the PCA was written that shoe print belonged to a shoe that was in the house. But they still used it in the PCA to arrest this guy. This has been the whole problem with the case, why I didn't know that fact. Here's the point. Nobody knew that fact was a fact like that. We always thought that shoe print was made by a perpetrator, and it wasn't. So everything they
I
told
can
us
see
to
what
believe
I can see what you're saying. I can see what you're saying. Like way back when we used to discuss this, I
Yeah,
had no real inclination of what a PCA looked like, what it was, meant to,
exactly.
the discovery behind the PCA. But now that I actually deal with probable cause affidavits on a daily, I read exactly what goes in those. And looking back on this PCA, I can see where a lot of people have questions about it. Doesn't necessarily mean that I'm changing my view on things. I've left
No,
this case a long time ago. So anything I say tonight, don't use
no,
it
but
against me. But you know what
no,
I'm
no,
saying?
no.
I'll say
I'm
this,
not that kind of guy.
if
I'm
your
not that
term
kind of
has
guy.
changed, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, but the PCA that was written in this case was way too long. It had
Well,
too
and
much opinions,
yeah,
as far as the part where the part where the police officer says he believed that his interpretation of the years on the force, that when somebody turns off their phone, then they're likely committing a crime. That is opinion. That is not fact.
that right.
So,
That shouldn't be in a. That
that
shouldn't
part
be in
right
an
there.
arrest warrant. Right,
Right, right, exactly,
right. I mean, you've
exactly.
been reading them. You have to support your accusation with facts. They can even be
Of
hearsay
course, you got
facts. They
to.
could be a right. They could be a hearsay fact. Joe Blow saw 12 gauge walking out of the 7-Eleven that was just robbed. That's hearsay because the guy wasn't in there to witness it, but he saw you leave and jump in a car and speed away. Right? That's a
Right.
tenable potential fact that you could put in a warrant to arrest somebody. There's none of that in the Koberger case. Not a single inference of their arguments are a fact that you can rely on. They're opinions. And to me, an American citizen shouldn't lose their freedom on an opinion of I don't care how many cops are involved. There should be one solid fact. And transfer DNA, if you look at now what we now know about the knife sheath, the chain of custody is broke. There is no chain of custody that's legal on that knife sheath. I didn't know they sent it to the state lab for examination, and the state lab rejected it because there was no chain of custody attached to it. That's a problem. And then the chain of custody sheet was filled out by one individual that put everybody else's name in there. That's a problem. That's criminal. You can't do that. There's a lot of problems that
Well,
have been put out into the public. Now,
I've heard a
again,
lot of things about that. I've heard a lot of things about that. Um, like I
well,
said, I
we
don't
were
have the
shown the
time.
proof.
I don't have
We
the
were
time anymore.
12 gauge. We
Go
were
ahead.
shown a picture. We were shown a picture of the chain of custody. This isn't an opinion by a Dr. Turvey. He shows you the photograph of the chain of custody, and it's in the Chris Wickham book. And he tells Chris Wickham, "What's wrong with this chain of custody?" He goes, "I don't know." He goes, "Well, look at the handwriting." He looks, "Oh, yeah, it's the same handwriting." He goes, "Right." He goes, "That chain of custody has 6 people written in there, all by the same person. That's illegal. You can't do that." So this, in other words, this is not an opinion I'm giving or interpretation. This is coming right from a crime scene investigator. And when you go look up what a chain of custody is, you can't do that. I mean, he's
Well, I
telling
know
you the
what it
truth,
is. I know what
right?
it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they have a chain of custody of all the officers going in and out of the house. Every time they leave, they sign out. Every time they go in, they sign in. Stuff like that. I get it.
Well,
But
no,
I
with a
have to
crucial
ask.
piece of evidence.
I have.
Wait, listen.
I
If
have
there's
to
one
ask you
crucial
though
piece,
that
go ahead.
chain of custody that you're talking about. How
Hmm.
did he know that it's the same person signing all the signatures? Like,
We got to
how did he
get you
know
the
that?
photograph. There's an actual photograph of it in the book. There's no ambiguity as to that. Was 7 different people signed that. That's just not true. You could see it with your own 2 eyes. The letters, the numbers used for dates and times, all the same hand. The cursive writing, the way that
Well,
the letters are made, you could see that consistently the 6 people listed on the chain of custody were all written by the same person. In
well,
other words, this chain of
I
custody
know enough.
wasn't. Wait. When you pick up the knife, you log it in as evidence, and then when you drop it off, you attach a number to it and put it on a shelf. The next person that signs that out signs a form, gets the knife, does what they're going to do with it, writes a report, explains what they did with the knife. They sign it and they turn it back into the evidence room. That's how it works. That's not what was done here. And it's obvious as fuck.
Well,
It's
I know
obvious
our
as the sun coming out. Go ahead.
in our county, whenever some evidence is taken in, there's kind of like a coded strip, those little
Hmm.
strip that you put around the evidence,
Yeah, it's a
and
barcode.
that little strip is scanned, right?
Yeah.
So every time that somebody takes that evidence out, they scan it and it logs
No,
it on the computer who took it out when they brought it
no,
back in.
no, it
So
doesn't.
this,
No,
that
it
wasn't
doesn't.
done like that here. It
Listen,
does
in,
that
in this
here, yes.
case,
I've
in this
seen
case,
it done.
look at,
I've
look at,
seen it
they're two
done.
separate things. They're two separate things that you're putting together as one. The barcode identifies the item and the location in the evidence locker. That's what the barcode is for, so that the guy can go find it and then return it to where it belongs. But when he brings it to you, the officer, to then take that knife out of the evidence, you have to personally sign for it and say why. Knife sheath removed, 12 gauge, for the purpose
I
to bring
understand.
it to a lab, right? You're
Understand.
bringing it to the lab, so you physically sign the evidence chain of custody form personally, and that's not done in this case. That's a big problem for evidence. That should
Wasn't
be
done.
excluded. Pardon?
That is a big problem. If that indeed was how it was handled. I mean, like I said, I have never agreed that this was a perfect investigation from jump. Never. Okay? I've never said this was a perfect investigation, the cops got everything right, blah, blah, blah. Because people are fallible, they make mistakes.
Right.
But that's enough to get somebody set free who could potentially be
Yeah,
guilty. You get what I'm saying?
that's the worst thing of all. I agree with
Yeah.
you. I'm not saying Koberger's innocent. That's not my opinion. I don't know whether the kid did it or not, and I'm not arguing for his innocence at all. Not even close. But what I am pointing out, and where I would have disagreements with Jeff, is there's no identifier that makes that car his other than that story. But the problem with that story is really simple. The car that they track on Route 270 can't be Brian Koberger's car. So the whole premise that a white Elantra was involved in the crime is wrong. Or if it is true, it's not Koberger, because Koberger's phone stayed on until 2:54 a.m. going north of Route 270. That's verifiably provable. The police admit it. So the car that they were tracking, that they said Koberger's phone went off at 2:47 a.m. False. His phone stayed on until 2:54 a.m. But the car that they claim going down 270 is a white sedan, but it ain't Koberger. See, what I'm saying is you have to accept their story without questioning it. And that 7-minute time variance shows unequivocally that Brian Koberger's car went north, not east on 270. See,
So
these
do you
are the
believe
reasons.
that?
Pardon?
Do you believe he's going to get an
I hope he,
evidentiary trial
I hope he does,
on the
man. I really
basis
hope he
that
does.
that Ann misrepresented him, that she didn't, she didn't
I
really
hope he does.
that she coerced him and everything else? I mean, do you believe that he's
Well,
going to win
do you
that?
remember the leak? You remember the leak that happened to the mainstream media? Okay. According to what the parents have told Cy Ray, listen, a parent, no, Turvey didn't leak it. I think Cy Ray leaked it, if you want to know the truth. I think Cy Ray leaked it to the media. And the reason I say that is he acts like somebody that's trying to cover it up. He plays both sides of the fence. On one hand, he's saying Koberger did it, but you can't prove it. I can, but nobody else can. I know he did it before they got me involved. He sounds like a guy that's trying to justify something, where Turvey isn't doing that at all. Turvey's saying, listen, here's the knife sheath, here's the evidence sheet of the sign out. You tell me if that's all individual signatures. There's 7 signatures. Show me 7 signatures that all look alike from 7 different people, and I'll agree with you. That's what Turvey's telling you. Turvey shows a picture of a clump of hair in Ethan's hand. They're calling it a single strand. So who do you argue with? Do you take Turvey's? The picture that was accidentally released to us shows a big clump of hair in Ethan's hand. Who do you take for truth?
Let's stop right there. All right, let's stop right there. If
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
evidentiary and that's
Mm-hmm.
exculpatory, how is
Mm-hmm.
he going to present that to the court that was withheld from him that would free him? I mean, not free him, but grant him another trial. How would he be able to prove that? I mean, how? What's the next step? Is he going to have to
And
fire
would have to have
investigators? Is he going to have?
and would have to have documented proof that she showed this and went over it with him. It's on her.
Okay.
She has to prove that she showed this to him beyond within reason. She has to show that Mr. Kohlberger was aware of this big clump of hair. Mr. Kohlberger was aware of the big clump of hair attached to the bed and on the floor of the bedroom. These hairs were looked at under a microscope and determined not to be Brian Kohlberger's. How about the 3 weapons minimum used on Kaylee? How did one guy use 3 weapons on one victim and 1 weapon on all the others? Where's the sense in that? Makes no sense. And it's their own
We
coroner that
talked
tells
about
you,
that.
right?
We talked about that at one point. Remember, we said there was more than one weapon. Remember
Yeah,
when we talked about that?
yeah.
We
How
had
do
discussed
you make?
that very early on. Right?
Did you know that Ethan was covered up and the girls were covered up in bed? Back when we were talking, I always assumed that the comforter was underneath these 2 girls if they were killed in bed. But then that's not true. We find the comforter was placed over them. There's no cut wounds or or puddles of blood on the surface of that comforter. That comforter was placed
Right.
over these 2 young girls after they had passed away. How do you explain that? How about a 6-pack of White Claw set on top of a blood stain that was left? It was on the second floor railing, not the railing, but that half wall. There's a blood stain with a 6-pack of White Claw on it from Ethan that supposedly never left that bedroom, and none of the blood transferred to the White Claw box. So that means the White Claw was set there after the blood was dry. How do you explain that? What I'm saying is, there's so much fucked up information they withheld from us that it's not a hard leap to suggest it was withheld from Brian either. And Ann didn't get a lot of this stuff until the last weeks prior to trial. And so Ann herself may not have been fully understanding what she was in possession of because she didn't have time to go through it. So I'm not saying Ann did anything nefarious to the guy. She may not have been aware. She may have been overwhelmed when they dropped that last discovery pile on her lap just a week or 2 before trial.
I mean,
Yeah,
there was a lot of discovery there was still a lot of discovery being asked for up until the plea.
right. And just before the plea was when they got another big. And why? Here's the question. As an American citizen, do you really want the government playing games with that? If this kid did it and you got all this data, what is the problem of turning that data over in a timely fashion? Why didn't this get done in the first 3 months, 6 months? Like, that makes no sense, right? It
You
doesn't.
know
It's
the
not.
answer to that. You know, hey, you know the answer to that.
But
Time
we
is of
should.
the essence. You're
Right.
stall. I mean, whether it's right or whether it's wrong, you know as well as I do. The more that somebody feels like the time is ticking, it gives them anxiety. They're
Oh
either
man.
going to want to take it to trial fast, or they're going to want to plea out. You know, at
Yeah.
least
Well,
I mean, his attorney did try to fight for him. She did do
she
that.
did. Yeah, and I think that some of the information, for instance, the chain of custody on the knife sheath, and Turvey says several other pieces of information or evidence. The chain of custody is not legal because it wasn't filled out the way it's described to be filled out to make you positive that nobody messed with it. And so she didn't know this stuff till towards the very end. She never made an argument of chain of custody on the knife sheath, but she didn't know until like the very end of this case. Why did they hold this stuff back from her? I mean, you're never going to get an. It's kind of a dumb question to ask. We know why they withheld it because they wanted to keep this kid locked down, keep this kid under pressure, and not ruin their own argument. Because that's what the chain of custody would do to that knife sheath. And if the knife sheath is excluded, what left do you have? A footprint? Well, you don't even have that. A video of a car driving around? What's criminal in doing that? Write the guy a ticket that drove through the neighborhood too fast. That's about all you're left with, right? A potential traffic violation.
I mean, I wish we would have got a trial. I mean, all this should have been gone to trial a long time ago. We could have had one way or the other. You know, the jury would have been able to either convict or release. then we wouldn't have all these arguments. To me, arguments are futile in this case. I understand people's emotional attachment. I get that.
Well, I'm
But
passionate,
at the
but
same
I don't
time,
know.
I see a lot of innocent, I see a lot of guilty people go get set free on a daily basis. And I'm not just talking with juveniles. I'm talking about adults. I
Right.
see a lot of adults that are set free that are ultimately guilty. So it doesn't always mean that people are railroaded into taking a
No, I
plea
was set
because
free.
they're in.
I was set free. I broke into an apartment and stole guns. They found my fingerprints on the hinges. The access point
Yeah.
was assumed to be the hinges were removed and the door was then penetrated. Right. That's what happened. But because I was the maintenance man in that hallway that afternoon painting, my fingerprints wouldn't be an unusual place to be found anywhere in that fucking hallway, including hinges. And therefore, they never prosecuted me for it.
Exactly.
And I did commit the crime. I mean, I'm not proud of that. It was wrong. It was a horrible thing to fucking do. It was an asshole thing to do. I did it. And, but yet, I walked free. I mean, it is what it is. I understand. But isn't that how the justice system is supposed to work? It's about first and foremost that
Of
the
course.
people in charge of taking away your life do it properly. And how hard is it to sign a chain of custody sheet when you're removing a knife sheath? I don't get it. How do you not do that? It's just stunning to me how they mismanaged this case. And the other thing too, I was screaming about the other day. All the blood on the second floor, it's all diluted blood samples, and the blood samples are identified as primarily Kaylee, secondary Maddie. And the expert from the state is arguing the dilution was from saliva from the wounds on Kaylee on Zana's mouth. But then the question has to be, then why wasn't the DNA three people? If a mixture of DNA is Kaylee, Maddie, and Zana's saliva, isn't saliva what we use with 23andMe? Are you trying to tell me you can't identify saliva? So their
Would you
arguments are
believe
just.
that if he did, if the perpetrator, I'm going to say perpetrator because I know whose territory I'm on. I'm going to say the perpetrator. If the perpetrator had two weapons, could
Mhm.
that somehow explain the lack of transfer evidence?
No, not really. It would actually suggest. See, no, I mean the other thing too is how could a perpetrator that used a double-edged, a serrated edge, a K-bar knife, and an item to crush your face leave a knife sheath behind? I never thought that
But
knife sheath was brought into the
but
property.
I'm asking it like this because
No,
supposedly the injuries to Kaylee's face were something, and I'm just paraphrasing here, like rings on it or whatever, almost like a pipe or something. So if that
okay.
was the second weapon, would that not explain like why there wasn't why there was blood spatter here, different blood spatter here? Because not every wound was created by a knife. You believe that? You believe
I
that
know that.
if
I
he
know
had
that
two
to be
weapons,
true. I know that to be true. There were multiple weapons used in the autopsy report. They're telling us that, not me
yeah,
saying it. Yes.
right. But
I don't know.
I'm asking just for conversational value that if there was multiple weapons, could that explain the transfer spatter that was one way and then the other due to different weapons carrying different blood spatter?
Yes, but except here's the problem with that is you do find Kaylee or you do find Zana and Ethan's blood outside the room, but not mixed with the girls upstairs. You find the other blood splatters, all the other diluted blood splatters, uniquely come from the two girls upstairs, which indicates that the weapon from upstairs came downstairs. If you take their theory, if that weapon was then used on Zana and Ethan, why are there no blood splatters containing mixtures from both crime scenes? You can't have it both ways. You can't suggest a separate knife.
That's an that's an enigma. That's an enigma. So, I
But
mean,
but
I
they
wish
were
we were
attacked by
there
a,
to
they
see
were attacked,
exactly how.
but preceding Zana's bedroom before you even get to the hallway. There's blood splatter And if a K-bar is the argument that was used upstairs, the blood splatter that's diluted is combined, Kaylee and Maddie. That knife was then used on Zana and Ethan. Why do you have no combined mixture of Zana and Ethan? And even worse, why no combination between the two crime scenes if the same weapon was used? And there's blood spread out all over the second floor, which was really kept from us. They didn't really make an issue or even point that out, but there's got to be 30 or more blood spots on that second area. I don't know. See, to me, it's another question about reasonable. He cleaned the weapon. It was the same between the two.
It's kind of like, do you believe that at any point he just caught his breath in the room and, you know, do you believe that he ripped off the knife on him? I mean,
but that wouldn't dilute it. That wouldn't dilute it.
Right? That's what's
well, no. But you, the fact is, the blood, the majority of the blood is diluted, and it wasn't diluted after the fact. It came off of wherever it came from as a diluted sample. It hit the wall diluted already. In other words, the blood stains that they see ran down the wall are all diluted. They didn't get diluted and somebody went and wiped it. There's no wiping of the stains. There's no interference with the stain, which means that every blood stain that they claim is diluted came off a diluted surface, something that was either washed or rinsed, and then it got flung onto the walls. So where did he have time to do that? See, if you argue that he came down the stairs and attacked Zana, then how did all the blood on him and the knife become diluted before he attacked Zana? Because it was supposed to be kill two upstairs, go downstairs, run into Zana, chase her, and kill her. There's no time to dilute the knife. It's so fucked up what they're trying to sell us, 12 gauge, right? And that's my interest. It's not.
I understand.
Yeah, I know you do. I get passionate. I'm not. That's just the way I am as a person. It bothers me that. It bothers me that these circumstances, a lot of people don't want to question them and they'll just accept the narrative. And I would accept it too. If the narrative was a little cleaner and a little more easy to understand and you didn't have to take and ignore glaring issues. Right? The whole house was lit. I don't know if you know that. That house was lit, according to Molly McMichaels. Yeah. We were always under the assumption, and I think Jeff was always pointing out, he got blinded by the good vibes sign when he came out of the hallway. Remember?
Yeah, I remember.
That's why he couldn't see Dylan,
yeah,
according
to. We used to have some discussion back.
Well, he would come up with some crazy shit that was no evidence to prove it. But now the evidence shows the complete opposite of that. The kitchen was lit. The third floor was lit. The second floor was lit. Dana's bedroom was lit. The place was lit. So how hard would it be to manage that property if it's lit up? It wouldn't be hard at all for a stranger, which means Brian could have been the killer. He definitely could be, right? But who would go into a lit house?
We spent a lot of time on that step. Remember we said he would have tripped on that damn 6-inch step, which now is lit.
Did we know the pong table was there? For years we didn't know there was a pong table there.
No, we did not.
Until they released body cam footage a couple of years later. It's like, what? Because I thought he tripped on that ledge, remember? That was the thump?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and here's the thing, is if one piece of evidence came forward, here's a picture of Brian Koberger in the back of the house. Here's a picture of him in his car, and there's his ugly face in the window. I mean, anything like that, I would accept it. I wouldn't run around screaming they invented it or planted it. I don't look at it like that. Evidence is evidence, man, all day, every day. But evidence.
What people think, you never want an innocent person sitting in prison that didn't do it. But at the same time, you have to be leery of letting out a guilty person and they go and kill again. You know, it's like there's a lot of God, I lost the word.
There's a lot of guilty people running free.
Well, also, you know, you have a chance of, if you get it wrong, they're going to sue the shit out of the state. You know? They're going to be like, well, why did you let him go? Why did you even give him a trial? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? You know,
Well, how about this? And this is what my stream was. My stream was about this tonight. Okay, my stream was about how hard is it to do things the right way. How hard is it to fill
right.
out a form properly? Right? How hard? And is there a consequence for you not doing your job properly? And the answer is yeah, yeah, yeah. You're directly the reason why this guy's back out on the street. I want to bring Kane.
You
Somehow
know,
he's not Tucker
I don't know if you
Carlson.
go and get hamburgers or not, but there's
Kane
people
loves
can't even
hamburgers.
get your damn order right.
And imagine those people investigating a crime scene.
Is there a
Yeah.
burger right
What's
there?
up, Kane?
What up, Gage? How you doing, man?
You know him? You two know each other?
Oh, hell yeah. Gage, my boy, bro.
I know Kane.
I was going to say, you're looking good, bro. It looks like you lost a whole person. I'm like, that's just like his career, you know? He always.
Don't worry, don't worry. Look at 12 gauge. He gained a whole person. So whatever you lost, he gained plus.
How you been, bro? You been,
Oh,
you know,
sorry,
working
man.
hard?
He runs around with no
You
shirt
know
on.
it,
Can't.
man. You know
He looks like the Marshmallow Man. It's crazy.
You
With
know,
no
it. Yeah,
hair.
exactly, man.
oh,
Exactly.
my microphone
Exactly.
is down. Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Listen, Kane, I got a question, Kane. Just listen to this question before you answer, okay?
Okay, yeah.
You had a stream set up for 11:45 p.m. and you never showed up, and then when you did, you spent 6 minutes online. Okay, explain yourself.
I don't know what happened with that stream, bro. They made it private. I can't tell you why. I didn't even take a damn stitch of clothing. Well, I was, of course, I was, um, laying there in women's underwear showing that. But I mean, beyond that, there was really nothing out of the ordinary on it. But I started at 11:45. I usually, start about 1 o'clock, and people know that. The people that purge regularly expect that, so they come back. We got a big storm rolling out. Let me turn my noise indicator off here real quick.
Someone just suggested that you were the Buffalo in the Buffalo Bill show.
Shit, busted. No,
Wait, I'm sorry, that was me. My bad.
Buffalo Bill. No, I was there to take pictures. Double J was called Tugger Nuts. He had to check the balls to see if they were male.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's it's not an easy job, man. It's been hot. It's been rolling. So, are you still doing probation and shit?
I asked him that too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I asked the other day.
Yes, sir.
I asked Typically Unique if you were their son, and she started laughing. And said, it was a legit question because I see you in there, and she's always talking about her son. We never see him, and you do look kind of like Los. You know what I mean? So I'm like, maybe that's where the Los gang kind of started to develop or whatever.
Oh, damn.
I wouldn't fuck with those
I've
guys. I'm
always
telling you. Man.
respected your sense of I've always respected your sense of humor, Kane, man. It's unique.
It's not a sense of humor, it's a way of life. That's what makes it
I
wonderful.
mean, that's
It's a
the
way of
problem.
life. All right.
Well, yeah, it develops from my frustrations. No, actually, somebody called
like
me
it
out on
so.
it. Yeah, well, no, somebody called me out on it. The Michelle girl, she said, I don't look at everything as some kind of humor like you do, Kane. And I'm like, okay, wow, I've never had anybody use my sense of humor against me, but you go on, girl. I'm like, that's fine. I was ripping on her for all this other shit, and she picks on my sense of humor and everything else I said just went by the wayside. I'm like, all right, that's cool. So what have you heard lately? I heard
I'll be right back.
Scott Green is head of the INL. Have you heard that one? So the
No,
INL.
I'm picking. I get little bits and pieces along the way, man. People still email me about the case. I could give
Oh,
a
sure.
shit less, honestly.
You're
I'm
you're
just
like
up
the
here
one
tonight.
person that has been able to walk away. Honestly, I had a thumbnail the other day, and there's this lady, Kathy's Indie Zone, was on, and she's like, it's like that Eagles song. You can check out anytime you want, but you can never leave. And I'm like, hold on, let me pull up. And I had that on a thumbnail, right? And I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
there's two people that have been able to walk away clean, Jack, and that's Dinky IMO, and then you. And I was like, I started using it because like some people are like, oh, I'm quitting this, I'm getting out of YouTube, and and then they come in and they try again, and now we got one guy who came in under a whole different persona, trying to hide who he is, and we're just like, holy fuck, man, it's the most. I ask people, are you here because you care about the victims, that you want truth and justice for this crime, or is this just kind of like your daily soap opera? You know what I mean? Where you get your romantic news, you get your your whole thing. You're just locked in like it's the next episode of Dallas, Who Shot Jr. It's really a hard thing to identify yourself, because it is our lively daily entertainment. The people that are here every day, they're here every day, all fucking day. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, I walked away for 8 months and had nothing to do with it after he took that plea. So from August until May of this year, I had nothing, no streams, no going on panels, nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you were dabbling and looking at news here and there, though, right?
Well, it was when the announcement came out for the book that I wait to see what was going to be in that book. That's when I got back involved. So however long that book has been out, I've been back around.
Gotcha. Yeah.
The only reason I got involved is because I started my criminal justice degree around that time, and I wanted to pick a case to kind of learn from as I was going along. And then I got my degree, and I was like, fuck it, I'm seeing this every day. It's like the butcher cutting meat all day. The last thing he wants to go home and do is cut more meat. You know what I mean?
No, that's why Koberger got into it too, I heard. But there's that was Scott Green, he's head of the Idaho National Laboratory. It's going to be the cybersecurity for the nuclear power grid, right? And so it's opened up all this stuff, and they're going to open a secret facility, a science center or whatever, and all these people are moving to the Pacific Northwest for this, because University of Idaho is not only going to be providing the engineers and stuff, they're going to be doing the training and stuff like that. So it's a very powerful position that Scott is in right now. So therefore, he's trying to make decisions way outside of his capabilities. And today I heard that he wants to change the name of his ridiculous dude. I couldn't believe I was reading it. And the Steve G's are involved with this. He wants to change the name of the Olympics to the Ozempics.
Yeah, okay.
And
What the fuck is wrong with you? Something wrong with you, Kane.
Yeah, the Kardashians and the Osbournes are going to host, and then Kim Kardashian said their biggest competition so far has been the Gonzalez family, and Steve's like, well, there's only one way to settle it, and so they're going to have the main event of the next Summer Olympics is going to be a butt chugging championship, because Scott Green was a butt chugging champion in Sigma Chi back in the day.
Well, how about the fact that they just got busted in Pennsylvania for being distributors of cocaine?
Right, yeah, no, my email's been blowing up like crazy with that one, and whatever else, something else happened apparently. Everybody's talking about it.
Yeah, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole trying to connect Pennsylvania to Idaho. Well, if it connects and there's legitimate connections, fine. But to then to launch them, to connect them to this crime is going to be, that's where people are going to go with this, and I just don't.
Well, Sarge, I'm pretty sure that 12 Gauge has gone down this rabbit hole. He's done, like the Smiley Face Killer stuff, and his shows are always really compelling. But you did. This is just another, what do you call it? A piece of the puzzle, I guess, because it started in North Carolina with I think it was Sigmas that had some type of operation.
It started in Ohio.
With the cartel.
Didn't it start in Ohio a couple of years ago around this time?
It's all working its way across the country that it's being revealed what the fraternities are doing, right?
Yeah.
Didn't you do a dive on that way early, Gage? And I hadn't really even looked into it, and you had all this information. I was like, holy shit!
Yep, that's right. In the stream the other night, I was saying a lot of people are sending their kids to college not knowing it's a fucking game of Russian roulette. That's where the fucking
Yeah, I love that
all the drug
quote.
cartels, they concentrate all their business to our kids, right?
Shit, the high schools are just as bad, man. They're
Yeah.
Oh, really?
the high
Okay, see,
schools.
you have more. You have more contact. I would say not inside, but people tell you shit because I know what with what you do, you get all this extra curricular information that you don't even want that turns up as part of shit, right?
You know, bro, you'd be shocked how many kids go to school carrying a gun. I
Huh.
mean, you might not be, but there's probably, I would say, at least 40% of a population go to school carrying a gun.
So,
Wow.
they're. I thought all high schools had gun metal detectors now. No.
Well, a lot of the guns are being made by 3D printers or plastic or,
So those actually
different.
work because my nephew said to make a printed gun. Oh, so they can buy one. Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, because yeah, my nephew was saying that to make one, you have to have a really expensive 3D printer, and you're not going to get guaranteed results that it works. Wow, so people be packing plastic now, huh? That's nuts.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's crazy, man. It's crazy out there. The wild, wild west.
It really is because I mean, you have a whole generation of people that thinks if someone has a differing opinion from you, that you have the right to pew them. And it's just amazing to me, how far we've. It's literally like idiocracy, how far we've uh, fallen in such a short period of time. It's,
Well, I don't really.
Let
I
me
think
turn
it's
y'all
more.
on to, let me
What?
turn y'all on to a case, bro. If y'all want to check out a case that is really intriguing and it's about to blow up, it's out of Philadelphia. It's called, his name is Eugene Horst, and his dad used to run this kind of erotic film
Eugene what?
company, Horst,
Spell it.
Horsch or something. Anyways, his dad used to make movies about serial killers and all this stuff. Well,
Oh, wow.
this dude, this dude got popped the other day for having a DEA badge on him with drugs and guns and all this stuff. And the girl that was with him had a missing person's ID on her. So they ran 94 search warrants on his house, and they're excavating and looking for bodies because there's digital evidence that those two girls that are missing from 2012,
Oh, no.
2016, that they were seen on a video where they're alive and then they're dead. But the plot of this whole thing is they're trying to figure out what's real and what's the movie prop. You know what I mean?
Maybe
That
I
they
case,
think I
still.
saw that now that you mentioned it like that. Yeah, dude.
yeah,
And they don't know if it's just all bullshit a movie prop or if there's some of this or some of that.
yeah,
Um,
Are some of those kids used in the movies?
yeah.
Are the crimes that are portrayed in the movies, even if the actors weren't killed, were the killings of those particular missing people what the movies are based on? How
oh,
Yeah,
by
sad.
the
but
way,
they
if
never
I go
tell.
out, the lightning is flickering my screen right now. It's really bad. I don't know if you guys can hear
We'll
it or
miss
not.
you deeply. Not. What were you saying there, Colgate?
Take it easy. Take it easy, Kane.
Well, I'm not leaving yet. I'm just saying if I do go out, the lightning or Sarge kick me out.
Well, I mean, 600,000 images, I think 10,000 photos, and then all these drawings and hand manifesto type stuff. It's just really wild. It's going to be a wild case, bro.
Eugene Horsch.
Yeah. HORSCH, I think. Some
Yeah, I see it
variation.
here. HORSCH into online House of Horrors investigation. Philadelphia, home link to missing women searched before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've done a couple. I've done a couple of radio lives on it. I'm keeping up with it because that sounds like a very intriguing case. That dad was a one of the missing people was dating the dad. And the last time she was heard from, she left a voicemail to her daughter and was never seen or heard from again. And this was in 2016. So the
Wow.
dad died at 85 years old, but he was an erotic filmmaker, all kinds of crap. So
And how's the kid got involved? Is he?
I think the kid just he was they had $1 million worth of weed plant in the house in the 80s. Like, it's a wild story, man. I can't go into every piece, but y'all need to go look it up. It'll drive you crazy, some of the stuff. I mean,
All
just to
right. So
give you a break from the Idaho stuff, I mean, it just, go check it out.
yeah, I actually got it. I got it up. I'm going to keep it queued up for tomorrow morning because
All right, bro. Well, I'm gonna head on out, man, because I got an early morning. But I appreciate your audience. I appreciate you. It's been a long time. I enjoy our conversations. There's never any animosity or any arguments, any
I think
emotional
you're a good guy.
attachment.
Yeah, I've always thought.
Maybe I'll stop by again.
All right, stay out of trouble.
You too, man.
I booted him before he could say goodbye, but that's how I roll around here. What happened to you, Kane?
I was trying to protect myself from lightning. And I clicked the X button. No, it's good to see 12 gauge, man. He's a legit dude, and he thinks the things thoroughly. He doesn't just piss out some fucking
He'll listen
he
to
was
both.
driving the Elantra.
Yeah, he'll listen to both sides of this. He'll look at the information and he'll come to his own conclusion. Sometimes it's favorable to being questionable, and other times it makes sense to him. So I've never had any animosity or disagreement with him over anything here. He sees what he sees, but sometimes, like now, he's seeing things he hadn't seen. Like most of us hadn't seen a lot of what's being talked about now. So who knows where it'll lead?
Well, with him, it seems like he kind of has that same angle as Cy where he comes from a law enforcement background, and fucking 90% of the people in prison say, I didn't do it. And the thing is, he sees, 100% of people coming into his office a day saying I didn't do it in the beginning, anyway. And so he, it's hard for, I think, with that experience to just be like, oh yeah, this is the one dude that didn't do it. You know what I mean? They have all this shit and whatever. So but he is fair but balanced, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I want to say this because somebody put something in my chat to a reply to a stream that I had. When I said that Europeans don't have air conditioning, and I didn't mean all Europeans don't, but in Europe, roughly only about 20% of their homes are air conditioned, and that's Europe.
Yeah, no, we were talking about that the other day.
Where in America it's 90% plus that have AC in their homes. So, but I read that in a comment, and I don't know if they misunderstood me, but historically, like I was saying, we air condition 80,000 seat stadiums for God's sakes. So I just wanted to cover that.
If you look at the concentric amount of air conditioning that the United States uses on a daily basis, it is insane the amount of power that we have to be putting towards that. And it's like, can't we just fucking somehow fix the climate so everywhere's like San Diego, 70
It's
degrees
not the
all
climate.
in?
What's wrong with you? The climate.
Not the climate. Just fix the climate so that everybody's at a comfortable temperature everywhere. Dude,
Are you out of your mind? You have any idea how big this Earth is?
I know, but it seems like
we really overrate our potential, our abilities.
Yeah, we do like to pat ourselves on the back real early on shit. We're like,
you can't control the worldwide climate. I mean, the energy required to do that, it always comes down to energy. And the capacity to produce that amount of energy is probably hundreds of years from now we might get there.
well, it would fuck everything up though, because the reason for the weather and all that stuff is to cool certain areas and warm certain areas up and all that shit. I guess I don't know.
Well, it would be nice. In the
so.
future, we'll be dead and buried. They'll figure it out.
Oh yeah, no, that's another thing that cracks me up is these douchebags over there in Silicon Valley. They're literally convinced that they can put their fucking soul onto a hard drive and live forever, bro. And it's this whole thing keeps coming up.
Well, let them do it, man. I mean, that's the whole thing about America. Let them do. You ain't got to agree with it. So you want to cut your
Absolutely.
dick off and be a girl? I say have at it. Make sure you're an adult and you can afford it. Otherwise, it's, that's all. That's the only thing I'm saying. I don't care.
Oh man, I can't wait for the first annual Ozempics. This is gonna be great.
Yeah, I think it's America. That's one of the things. Freedom is freedom. It's not. I don't have to agree with your way of life so long as it doesn't infringe upon mine. You want to be a monk or a Buddhist or whatever? That's fine. But again, don't come bringing that shit into my Chick-fil-A. And Chick-fil-A's very religious, but don't dump your religion on the fucking client. Just let me get my chicken and go. I don't want to hear about your belief in Christ. Have a good day. Right? I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be in a free country. You can do and believe whatever you want, but just don't interfere with other people's lives.
The thing about it, the government, I know you see it too, is that as we grow as a country with more and more people, they start to present things that appear one way, but are actually just the opposite. Like the original Patriot Act. Oh, here, this is to
About the original Obamacare. A lot of people don't know this, but the Obamacare, when that was passed, was never for universal health care. 17,000% increase in the value of your insurance companies. That's what it was for. It never had anything to do with you getting free health care. As a matter of fact, they were trying to punish people like me that self-pay. I was supposed to pay a fine.
Oh, they wanted to go after. They finally
yeah. But they label these things. They label these things with all this. It's what a con man does. He promises you the world, and he gives you a grain of sand.
Well, they honestly they were coming off the success of the cash for clunkers thing. They got everybody to jive on board for that, right?
Well, that wasn't success either. It took all the cheap cars away from the next generation. That was a joke too. That was a ridiculous thing. And the only people that benefited for it were people that had money that could afford to go buy another car. Just think about what cash for clunkers meant. It meant you were replacing it with a newer model. So how did that help the poor? They started crushing and destroying all of these cars and recycling the steel, so that now you don't got no part for your 1988 Chevy because we crushed them all and burned them.
Yeah, they're doing that. This is a weird thing. Just an anomaly I heard the other day with these data centers, right? That they're buying up as many books as possible, cutting the spine off the book, saving the spine, and throwing away or chopping up the books.
That's what they're claiming they're doing. I've seen the claims made. I haven't seen it actually done. And the data centers, what do you think all these flock cameras are for? People don't realize what we're doing to ourselves with these electronics. Everything you do, every breath you take is going to be recorded. They're going to know by your heartbeat who you are and where you are. And if you don't believe me, go look at how they found the fucking pilot that got downed in Iran a few months ago. They found him by his heartbeat, okay? In a mountain where nobody could find him. How the fuck do you find a human heartbeat in a mountain?
He died with that bullet by a cunt hair. I'm telling you. That was an amazing rescue. You're right.
But wait. That technology also has a bad side. How the hell do you find someone's heartbeat in a mountain?
They've got it, man. If they can see through buildings, they can.
Okay, now Twitch says no, you can't. Yes, you can. Go look at how they rescued that pilot.
The problem is how they're using it, and with the.
That's right. It's not that the technology is bad. It's that the people that have their hands on it would do the things that they shouldn't be doing. Just like the court system, right? The guy like Bill Thompson, Cracker Claus himself, that was attacked, and nobody can fucking prove me wrong. He was attacked by a bison in Yellowstone National Park. That fat fuck is not somebody that should be in charge of people's freedom.
It's like that movie, Failure to Launch with Matthew McConaughey. And every time he likes to go climbing and shit, every time he goes out, an animal attacks him. He's just got some kind of aura. And like he goes to go scuba diving and the dolphins are attacking him and shit. But my big stance on this Idaho thing right now is this Alpo plea, right? And I did a deep dive into Ralston Purina. And I found out today that their porpoise food is made up of earwax and manatee bits. So I'm going to take that all the way. And these Alpo, the big Alpo, the big dog food is really.
Well, can I just say something for the animal lovers out there?
Yeah.
Let me tell you, the animal lovers out there. I'm going to tell you something, and I don't want to hear anybody contradict this, or I'll find you and slap you. Your dogs and cats are carnivores. Carnivores.
So they
Not
drive.
omnivores.
They like to
Not
drive.
herbivores. You don't
It's
feed your
mostly-
dog anything mixed with peas and carrots and corn. You gotta be an idiot. Okay? You gotta be an idiot. They're carnivores. Feed them only pure meat, even if it's fucking horse meat. Meat, meat, meat. That's it.
Yeah,
I'm not wrong. You don't know what you're talking
all
about,
the
Kiss
amino
Me.
acids and all that shit that the vegetarians are always trying to crave by combining.
Why do you
like-
think these animals are getting all these human problems? Diabetes, they're getting fucking arthritis, they're getting fucking heart disease. Oh, Kiss Me just likes to be slapped. Good call, Twig. I'm down with that. Bring it on, Kiss Me. No, I'm telling you, your pets are carnivores, and you got to look at the food. And if the food has any carbohydrates in it, that's the key. You cannot give them carbohydrates. Their body is not able to process that shit like ours does.
Right, sugar is really bad. Like dogs
Yes.
with peanut butter. It's gonna rot your dog's teeth out.
Dogs eat meat.
They have no brushing way to get it off. So, people, they did a study that looking at people's teeth through the centuries, and up until sugar became a tradable commodity, people would keep their entire set of teeth, and they were perfect. There were no cavities, nothing, and fucking as soon as you have sugar introduced,
Washington have wooden teeth.
yeah, but sugar was starting to be traded
Not
way back in like the 1700s.
Okay.
And so yeah,
How do you find
that's
all
when you
these
see that
skeletons with
it's
missing
like-
teeth? How
Yeah.
about when you find all the skeletons with missing teeth?
I haven't found any skeletons.
Well, not you personally, but I'm saying archaeologists.
I haven't talked to them about it.
I'll tell you
but
what, folks.
I was talking about
Take all the
specific
ingredients. Take all the ingredients in your most famous dog fucking food. Put all of them fucking ingredients in the garden and grow them. And then build a fucking structure around it with a lot
Right.
of water and
Yeah.
stick your dog in there. And go back and check on your dog in 30 days and tell me he's not a dead dog, okay? The dog ain't gonna eat corn. It ain't gonna eat broccoli. It's not gonna eat
That's the
carrots.
main
It's not.
ingredient in those dog foods, bro.
Yeah, you're
the
killing your dog
problem-
by giving them these fucking popular dog foods.
In all seriousness, one of the major problems that I found out early on was that with your companies like Purina and shit, is that they have these large warehouses where they stack the kibble, right? I mean, it's fucking like a mountain high or whatever. And
Yeah.
what they do to keep the rats off them is they spray rat poison on the outside of the pile. But here's the thing: once it's mixed together, it becomes a acceptable to the FDA level of rat poison because it's now only a percentage.
Well, you know why rats die when they eat that poison? You know what kills them?
I don't know.
They can't regurgitate it. Dogs can puke. A rat can't. You didn't know that, did you?
Well, I never fed anything that made my dog throw up.
Well, let me just say, well, your dog has thrown up. You've seen it eat grass and force itself.
Oh, sure.
to
Well, I mean, it
swallow.
has, yeah, not directly from
So,
my
but rat poison is based on the fact that digestively they cannot regurgitate, and they blow up in their stomach. They can't throw up.
Oh, they can't
Yeah.
digest it.
Can't digest it. They can't throw it up either. So that's why it kills them. And that's why my friends say that I'm full of useless information, because I am.
I need to take you to trivia night over here down in Newport Richie.
Well, it depends on the topic of trivia, but I'm pretty good. Dog, we want meat for dogs. Just keep that in mind, folks. Go read now. Stop the stream. Go read the ingredients in your dog food. And if it doesn't say meat,
No,
then
it's the
throw it
same
away.
for people. If you combine the fish and chicken and beef in the right way, you'll have everything you fucking need. That's all you
Well,
need.
you want to know what else too? Man's brain is recorded to have grown only once we started cooking the meat. Just be aware, we used to eat meat raw. We don't do that. Matter of fact, the cooking the meat is what allowed us to digest enzymes that weren't available to us when it wasn't cooked. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean breads and all that shit is just it's
chicken
all
feed.
sugar and shit like that. It's unnecessary. It doesn't do anything for us.
Kisme's talking about chicken. You got a foot fetish, Kisme? What the hell is that all about? Chicken feed.
Chicken feed. That's Sammy Hagar's new band with Michael Andrew.
Unbelievable.
So what have you been
So what
talking
else?
about? I just kind of texted in, man. My intestine thing came back today, man. I was like on my fucking deathbed earlier.
What's wrong with your intestines?
I don't know. I had a little sharp pain about a week ago.
You know how to fix that, right?
And I passed it.
I'll tell you how to fix that,
What do you got?
right? What you do is that one area that you're calling an entrance is an exit. Stop using it for an entrance.
How am I gonna win the Ozempics? I mean, I gotta practice. You gotta practice to get good. You know.
You're gonna be with that one. Who's that? That Bruce Jenner. He'll fix
Jenner
that.
hosted the first annual Ozempics. Holy shit, dude! Holy,
Go
you hear that?
exercise, Kane. They're telling you in the room. Just go exercise.
I know. I should. I used to run 5 miles a day. I was showing some pictures of what great shape. I was
5
in.
miles a day.
Yeah, in the Florida heat too, and I was working out and stuff.
Why'd you stop doing that?
That's.
Did you get to where you were
my
going?
My girlfriend told me to stop.
Did you get to where you were going?
I just run around in circles. No, I don't know why I stopped, but
Kane, did you fart?
no, I dropped a fucking cigarette on my
Oh,
ass.
okay. Twiz, you mistook his noise for a fart.
Uh,
Where's
did you hear
Lucy
that?
been? I haven't seen Lucy in here in a few times.
She's over in our friend Clint Eastwood's right now, hanging out.
Who's Clint Eastwood?
He's a buddy of ours, lives in Michigan or whatever, Wisconsin or something.
He's got a
he does
screen?
a lot of the Mason shit. He's really fucking. He's like an encyclopedia on this shit.
On Masons?
Mm-hmm.
The secret societies. Wow.
Yeah, him and JJ are both kind of like fucking deep divers into that.
So what did they tell you about your intestines? Are you gonna be okay? Are you ill? Are you?
They told me that fucking my buddy Rockford pretty much found me face down on the linoleum today, and I had fallen asleep. I ate some brisket, and I think it was brisket, it was some kind of meat, and it was still a little bit pink, you know. And I kept, I would have a sandwich, heat it up or whatever. I figured it would, and I guess maybe I left some of it too raw. So yeah, I think
Was it
that
pork?
No, it was just beef, but I don't know.
Yeah,
it
but
just-
beef, pink beef shouldn't hurt you at all ever.
Yeah, it might. I don't know. It tasted delicious.
So what did they
man.
say about your intestines?
Well, who they? I don't go.
You said you got a test or
If I had a
something.
knife sticking out of my neck, I wouldn't go to the fucking hospital, right?
Jesus Christ, King. You
And
gotta go
think about it
somewhere.
back in the day, though, Sarge. I walked behind somebody in their backswing, full contact, broke my nose, right? Cried my way home to my mom, spent a week in bed, and then picked red boogers for the next month. Never went to a doctor about it. That's how we were back in the day. I was riding my bike after it rained on a black tar driveway, and watching my friends play soccer on the side of his yard. They had a big soccer goal. The bike went out from under me, whacked my head, woke up a day later in my mom's bed. Oh, hey, how you doing? You okay? We were worried about you. You know what I mean? It's like, back in the day, it wasn't like you got a boo-boo and you ran to go see the doctor, dude.
Dude, when I was a little kid, we remember those mallets for croquet?
Oh, God.
Remember them?
Oh, yeah, hell yeah. That was the
So
badminton and
we were
croquet
playing
were
croquet with these.
Nobody
This
knew how
is-
to play croquet. You just hit it whacking around the yard in those little
No,
fucking
no, there were those
things.
little wire things you'd set up. You'd have
Yeah,
to
yeah,
hit
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So I took one of those mallets and I was hitting one of them back in the day, a ball that was vinyl full of air. It was like a permanently filled ball. It wasn't a basketball or a beach ball, but it was smooth. It was full of air. Well, I swung the mallet and I hit the top of the ball, and doesn't the mallet bounce off and smack me right in the middle of the forehead?
Boo.
Drop me like a fucking bad habit.
How big was that, Wilt?
Listen, I get up and I wander over to my
Oh, fuck.
my step-parents' house, and everybody's like, "What happened to you?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And there's this, I didn't know it, but there was a knot the size of a fucking baseball on my forehead.
Holy shit.
And everybody's panicking. The neighbors' moms are like, "Gotta get him to the hospital." And my stepmother says, "Nah, as long as the bump comes out, you're safe. It's when you get hit in the head, the bump goes the other way, that you're in danger.
Oh,
You
is
need
that
the
right?
hospital."
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I walked around with this big knot on my head for a couple of weeks. That was some stupid shit. I think I was about 5 years old.
What do you call it? One time, I just related story. You remember you go to the high school football games, and the cheerleader would throw out those little tiny plastic balls and say "Cleveland Tornadoes" on it or whatever.
I
you
didn't
know,
see that. No, I didn't. I
Do you
didn't.
remember? It was like a little souvenir that they'd give you. You know, they throw it up. They did it for a long time, and so I had one of those, and I'm like, yeah, maybe I'm not going to be the nose guard for the New York Yankees or whatever when I grow up. So I was trying to be a kicker because I played soccer too. As you know, I would do field goal kickers, punting, and
What is Angel saying?
What happened? Can you hear me? Sir?
Yeah, I can hear you, but somebody said I'm not answering them, so I'm reading the chat. I'm not talking about why none of them been talking about the bodies being moved around and attacked outside. There was blood in multiple areas outside and at the whites, and if because I don't know what there is to
I
talk
just
about
realized,
with
dude,
that.
I gotta go check my. I'll be hang on one second.
No, go ahead. I'm going to close the stream in five. Listen, I'm going to close
outside.
down. Hey! I'm going to close down in 5 minutes anyway. So.
I'll be 2 seconds to bring it in.
Well, I'm going to close down anyway. Say your good nights.
All right, go fuck off, everybody.
Anyway, because there's no direct evidence connecting that to this particular crime, and it leads to all kinds of assumptions, theories, and rabbit holes. And until that can be directly connected to these crimes, then I don't want anything to do with all these different locations and all this argument that people were moved around and moved in and out of the house and carried and that. I don't want to have any of that in my stream either. Not interested. I'd rather stick with the evidence at hand and try to see if that can make some kind of sense. And you can argue that's evidence, but I don't know what it's evidence of. It's not evidence that bodies were moved. It's not evidence they were killed somewhere else and moved into the home. It just isn't. And so I don't want to get into that. Well, and not only that, there's so much bloodletting in the bedrooms that what do these people do? What do you mean there wasn't enough blood being in the house? How can you even make that statement? How is it you didn't read the autopsy reports? And 3 of the 4 victims were hit the subclavian vein and artery. The subclavian vein and artery is so difficult to hit, but it was hit 3 times. And it will not bleed out. It bleeds into the body cavity. That would explain why there was less blood than you might expect. But how do you explain Zaina's big giant puddle of blood? Because she wasn't hit the subclavian artery. She was stabbed everywhere but there. All her injuries were externally bleeding. But the other 3 victims being hit where they were hit would cause internal hemorrhaging, not external. So, I mean, there's evidence that explains what you're seeing that makes sense. Way more sense than people hauling dead bodies around. Okay? Dear God. I mean, it's like listening to Tommy Jude or the Bubbly Waters with all their videos and all their analysis and all they're telling you what you're going to see, and then you start seeing it. And for fuck's sakes, I don't want to get into that. There's enough to try to understand with what we can see. There is a ton of blood on the floor where Xana was found. Yeah, there was. There was enough blood from Ethan that it bled outside the house down the concrete block. Yeah, I don't doubt that Dylan may have moved around the house and saw things that she didn't tell us about. Yeah, that's what I mean. A lot of these conspiracy theories, I won't engage in them. I mean, it's like talking about the cocaine bust in Pennsylvania today is connected to these crimes. Until evidence can bring that together, I don't want to get into the discussion of it. It's just a slippery slope. And until there's there's evidence that you could see with your own eyes that support the argument, what's the point? I don't think the lack of blood is surprising at all when you go through the autopsy reports and you understand how the wounds and how the penetrations into the human body with a blade, how your body reacts to that, right? That's it. Test the blood at the whites and match it to the victims. If that can't be done or won't be done or hasn't been done, then unfortunately, it's a red herring. There's nothing you can do with it. That's the catch-22 here. Some of these people's guesses may be true, but how are you ever going to prove them to be true? So they'll always remain guesses, right? Listen, it's a theory, not a conspiracy theory. Well, whatever you want to call it. How does that theory, is it supported by direct evidence? It's a conclusion based on a summary of information that you observed. That's a conspiracy theory, right? They did shut shop up on anything that's not Koberger. I don't deny that at all. But to suggest that these other things are connected without any connection, I just don't go down those roads. We don't know that they was her bracelet and blood. Because either they weren't collected or they were collected and they weren't tested. Which means, Angel, that you may have some accuracy to this. Maybe some of that blood at the Whites is from Ethan or Zana, right? That might be true. Was evidence collected? Were there swabs collected? Was the bracelet recovered? Was it put in evidence storage? Right? But if that stuff wasn't done, I don't know what. There's just you planted an oak tree waiting for apples. It's just not going to happen. You can't get fruit from a non-fruit bearing tree. That's what I mean, and that's what I try to totally stay away from. You know, the car that was found smashed in Oklahoma or something. Okay, I don't know. How do you know what's connected or not connected? I mean, what they claim is connected isn't connected. But the fact that the 4 dead bodies were found in their beds, the wounds are consistent with what would have been received if you were sitting up in a bed, and the bloodletting that's there, based on where they were hit. If you can trust what the autopsy tells you, that does explain quite a lot, if not all, of what you're looking at. It was shown outside on the wall. I don't know where else it was shown. Is there evidence collected by the police, photographs from the police showing blood outside the property? Is there evidence of that they collected? Because if they didn't collect it, then there's nothing you can do about it. It's just like the 5 unknown males that they collected DNA on and never tested for identity. There's nothing we personally can do about it, right? Nothing. Right. There's been no connecting. I don't even want to get into it because it comes into a battle of trying to say that the only data you can use is the data supplied. As to whether it's accurate or whether it's true or false, that could be discussed. But to try to bring in something that's really not a collected piece of evidence that we can connect, then I don't know where to say. Where's the other blood evidence from outside? There was blood on a glove collected from outside the property. And there were 3 or 4 locations in that glove of unknown male DNA. There was blood on the foundation wall. No, because they could see where it leaked from. They could see where Ethan ended up. And because of the location of Ethan, all the blood that puddled on the floor and it was on the baseboard and on the wall. I mean, why did you need to go outside to confirm that was Ethan's blood? I mean, the source of it was right on the other side of it. So, you know, it wasn't. Sometimes you can add 1 + 1 = 2. Near Linda Lane. Well, I don't know. Did the policemen collect them blood samples near Linda Lane? Probably not. Look at Linda. Angel. All that stuff could be true. All that stuff could have a connection to this case. But I don't know why we would argue that it does when we don't know that it does. We can assume that. I never saw any information about a huge puddle of blood outside near the house. I never saw any information about that. Yeah, the blood running down the foundation. Well, I don't know how you came up with that information. Is that in a police report, Angel? Is that in a report from an investigator, from the FBI, from the Idaho State Police, MPD? Is there a report to support what you're saying? Because if there is, then let's see it, because that's another problem to add on to the heap of problems that we've always been discussing in here. All right? Did that dog that got skinned, does that have anything to do with anything? I don't know. Seems awful coincidental, though. Just like the drug bust in Pennsylvania today. Seems awful coincidental at Sigma Chi. Yeah, I know there was blood at the Whites. The woman was interviewed about that. One of the guys had a nosebleed from some kind of fight that happened in the house. Was that guy Zana or Ethan? I don't know. They didn't test it, apparently. I don't know. There's a big push to suggest that this crime by a lot of people out there that it didn't happen in the house. What's the point? It's not useful to the case at hand. You guys are running down these roads trying to solve the case, right? You're running down the road. You're not going to solve this case unless data is provided or somebody comes forward with evidence. None of these conspiracy theories are going to solve this case. I mean, blood there and blood there, it's coincidental at best. Its direct connection to the case would have to be because it was collected as evidence and then DNA samples were taken. They examined the blood for identifiers. They should have. I don't disagree. They absolutely should have done that. There was blood on anywhere on any property in any proximity to this house, whether they were killed inside or not. Because the truth of the matter is, the people or person that did this crime would leave a blood sample somewhere, you would think. That person had to be bathed in blood. They didn't leave in the house. They had to leave it somewhere. They had to take them clothes off, right? Yeah, the data says the justice system, the judicial system itself, with prosecutors like fucking Cracker Claws and investigators like the ones in this case, all need to be retrained. This case should be a fucking training manual for exactly what you're not supposed to do. Right? At the very least, it should be in the training manual for that. Have a good night, Yvonne. I'm going to jump down too. Look, folks, I wanted to cover Donna. She's a great streamer. The name of her channel and the link is in my description. Crime and Justice with Donna Rotuno. Don't hesitate to peek in on her. Check out her streams and her info. And, live life to the fullest. Live life to the fullest. And with that, we're going to call it a night. I'm going to thank you all for showing up. It's been fun. It's been interesting. And you all stay out of trouble. Kiss me. Change your name, would you? Just leave it Kiss Me. You don't need to say where I pee, for God's sakes. Dear God.